Their bodies blot the line of sight. The bullets shred them and they keep coming, eating rounds in their backs and chests, completing the order with their lives. Loyal, effective, whatever. I do not care which one drops a box. They are all walking material boxes. The large goblins go down. Woong Daeguang, freed up, finishes the remaining large goblin on his side. He takes its weapon off it and beats it down without ceremony. That leaves the shaman. The shaman knows it is alone. The shield is patched, but its expression has gone from furious to scared. When I round the corpse of the second large goblin and lift the desert eagle, the look on its face is the same look every cornered animal makes. It turns and runs. It runs badly. Its earlier composure is gone. It scrambles, scampering through mud, no longer enchanting itself, no longer keeping the shield clean, only trying to put trees between us. Whatever it saw in my face has scared it into pure flight. Too late, I tell it. If the three of them had broken together back when I first showed up, the shaman's shield could have covered a retreat. Maybe I would not have chased. Now with one large goblin dead, the other one pinned by Woong Daeguang and the shaman drained. Why would I let a mage that cannot punch back walk away? I run after it. My face must be doing something specific, because I can feel the grin in my own cheekbones. I want the box. Another bronze level box is already dropped earlier and I want a second. Another magazine into the spine, and the goblin shaman falls. It gifts me, on the way down, a bronze level material box. What a good goblin. I correct myself out loud. What a generous goblin. I crouch over the body. Most of the trinkets it was wearing are ordinary clutter, beads and bone, nothing the panel calls out. 2 pieces due. A wooden staff streaked dark with old blood, and a silver pendant. Good stuff. The panel says the blood-stained wooden staff is bronze level. Wearing it adds Constitution 2 and Spirit 3, and lets the wearer spend mental energy to cast the boil spell. The white guardian pendant is also bronze level. Wearing it adds Spirit 5 and lets the wearer spend mental energy to cast Magic Shield. 2 bronze level equipment pieces. That is the value of a 3rd bronze level material box stacked into the hall, and I want to give the dead shaman a mental thumbs up for the gift. Magic Shield was what just gave me trouble, so I know exactly what it is worth. It would not survive a sustained magazine, but as a short-term reflex, it is a free life. The boil spell turns out to be a buff, increasing strength and agility on the target. It costs the caster's mental energy and the target's life force, and after it ends, the target is weakened. It stacks with most other buffs, and it lets the user ignore pain. The ceiling depends on target tier. On a tier 2, it adds 10 strength and 10 agility. On a tier 1, it can double the floor. On a tier 0, it can triple it. A pocket-sized top-tier piece, in other words. I do not have a problem putting on jewelry a goblin was wearing. The pendant goes around my neck. I walk EMU. Battle is over. Bring the convoy, collect the boxes and the people on the way. She acknowledges. I take the path back. By the time I get to the original clearing, the second large goblin is on the ground, dying, with Woong Daeguang sitting over it. The black bear is gone. In its place sits a man about 2 meters tall, mid-30s, with a beard that has not been touched in months, and the same numeric tattoo on his forehead. His clothes are rags. His skin is pale. He is breathing like a forge bellows, even sitting still. A girl is beside him, pale with quiet eyes that look at the rain instead of at me. The boy with the bright light skill is on his other side. The 3 of them stay vigilant as the trees turn black with twilight, but when they see me come back into the clearing, their faces ease. The boy calls me Hyung and tells me Hyung Woong saved this last one for me, gesturing at the dying large goblin with a smile that wants praise. I thank him with a word and a nod. They have figured out by now that I am a survivor, or they are checking to confirm. I will not bother hiding it. I put a single round into the large goblin's head, and a black iron level material box drops. I add it to the stash, summon the hybrid tricycle out of my trading board hold, and drop the box and the wooden staff inside in one motion. Then I dig out some travel food and wave the boy closer. Eat, I tell him. Fill your stomach first. The boy's eyes go wide when the hybrid tricycle appears out of nothing, and they get wider when he hears me offer food. He does not care about being filthy or wet. He takes the food and eats. Slaves do not get fed well. Once they had run far enough from the tribe, they would have stopped having the strength to keep running at all. Woong Daeguang takes his turn. He tells me my life owns his life from this day. He asks me how to address him. I let him stew for a beat. Then I introduce myself, plain. My name is Jin Hae-chon. Welcome to the convoy. Captain works. I lay it out without softening. For now, my rule is total. Everything follows my command. All supplies are mine. Contributions are rewarded at my discretion. No objections. I am not in the mood to build a democracy. A small team does not need many voices, and a wrong one in the wrong place gets people killed. I want to see what Woong Daeguang does with a hard frame. He is tier 2. Looked at flatly. He is stronger than I am. He should know that. So should I. He bows his head. Captain's will, he says. Taking us in is already a kindness. The boy echoes him. The girl drags the words out from somewhere under her exhaustion. She agrees too. The boy speaks for her. His name is Yuk Cheon, he says, and the girl is little Fox Eun-gi, Woong Daeguang's younger sister. She was injured before. She is having trouble speaking. I can see all of that for myself. I think about it for a second. Then I pull out a low-level recovery potion. I have opened a number of these and given them all to other people. I have not used one personally. It is as good a time as any to spend one to lock in the loyalty of a tier 2 asset and his sister. Try it, I tell Yuk-chan. I add a stamina recovery potion to the gift, because once I have already opened the kit, I might as well finish the job. Woon Daegwang earned the cost. If he had not been on the field, some of the goblin shaman's group would have run, even if I would not necessarily have died. Yuk-chan takes the potions and brings them to Woon Daegwang and Woon Gi. Woon Gi drinks the recovery potion and the color in her face improves. Woon Daegwang drinks both and his breathing levels out into something that does not sound like a wild animal. Yuk-chan does not ask for anything for himself. He sits in the rain, eating, smiling stupidly at the way the other two look better. The three of them are clearly tight. The scene is almost pleasant. If we were not in a wet forest in the dark, it might even be cozy. I look at the three of them. I point them at the back door of the hybrid tricycle. There is a bathroom inside. I tell them, clean up. There are clothes set out. I let them into the rig. I do not worry. Sentry can lock the carriage at my word. Woon Daegwang thanks me. The relief on his face is real. From the moment he got sold to the moment he came out of the goblin shaman's wound radius, this has been the first piece of news that smells like daylight. He pushes Yuk-chan to wash up first and then sits down with his sister to brief me on their backgrounds, the same way the man and woman from earlier did. The picture is consistent. All of them are from city number 7. All of them offended someone and got sold. Woon Daegwang was a small team leader in the law enforcement team, with several subordinates. His backer fell and the people his backer used to keep at bay came in to settle scores. Woon Gi got pulled in because she was his sister. Yuk-chan's father was another small team leader, friend to Woon Daegwang's backer, and Yuk-chan's father was killed outright, not even given the chance to be sold. The story is uglier than the surface read. I listen without saying anything. The point is not to comfort them. The point is to learn the shape of city number 7. From what they are giving me, the city is not weak. A tier 2 life form is just a small team leader inside its law enforcement team. That tells me something about the strength they keep at the top. Headlights cut the rain. Imyu's vehicle rolls up. She and her crew come out at my position. The man and woman from earlier are following behind on foot, hopeful in the way of people who would rather be a guest than a corpse. Imyu reports, 2 of the slaves got away. Should we go after them? I ask her if she knows who they were. She does not. 2 more, she repeats. On their own, neither attached to the trio nor to the couple. If they do not want to come in, I tell her, leave them. It is dark. We find a place to camp. While I am at it, I pull a wooden staff out of inventory and hand it to her, telling her to decide between her and her brother who keeps it. She checks the readout, sees the spirit +5 and the magic shield bundled in, and smiles. It is well suited to either of them. Her brother's floors are still low. Her own scouting bleeds her mental energy faster than is sustainable. The shield evens that out. We find a relatively open patch in the trees and call it camp. I pull a second vehicle off the trading board, the bigger one I have been keeping in storage, and park it as the temporary cabin for Woon Daegwang, Yuk-chan, and Woon Gi. The other crew, the 4 women and the man and woman couple, I let Imyu organize. I hand out food. I shower again, because I can since the water tanks and the purifier are doing their job. Head count is up, water consumption is up, and we will need to refill tomorrow. I sit down and check the communication board, mostly to kill time while my sanity ticks back up to where I can crack the remaining boxes before sleep. The inventory currently holds 3 bronze level boxes and 8 black iron level boxes. The rock rank ones I have already cleaned out. I am starting to feel rich enough that I should probably stop wasting sanity on anything below bronze. The inbox is full. Most of the messages are from Captain Im Pajon, and the tone moves from smug to anxious as I scroll. He has dealt with a wave of rotten Koras. He smashed up one of his own vehicles doing it. He wants my rig in trade. He offers a low-level enhancement potion, a vehicle upgrade modification labeled bathroom, and a skill called bright light. He asks if we can talk. He asks me to reply when I see this. He apologizes preemptively if the price is wrong and says we can negotiate. The early messages went out while I was hunting goblins. Bad timing. He probably thought I had ditched him. The offers are interesting, but tribute points are cheap on the board, except that any number of them is still better than another vehicle on my end. I read the bright light entry. Bronze level. A spell that emits a burst of intense light, briefly dispersing black fog, with significant lethality against light-sensitive creatures. Right now, on its face, the spell looks marginal. In 2 days, it might be the most valuable thing in my inventory. I have not forgotten what the guide said about the black fog coming in. I send back 2 questions. How many vehicles does he want? How many low-level enhancement potions can he provide? The bathroom blueprint is at most a sweetener. The board is already selling those. The enhancement potions are what I am short on, and the bright light is a function of price. The response comes back the same second. Brother, you finally replied. The more the better. Name your conditions. Captain Im Pajoon and his crew are still parked in the wasteland because their rides took damage and they cannot bring themselves to walk away from the rotten corpse field they have been farming. It is rest time over there, but he is checking the board on a loop, terrified of missing me. If he ran out of supplies, he could keep killing rotten corpses for more, but if he missed the trade window and the rotten corpse field went quiet tomorrow, the lost upside would crush him. I tap out my counter on the communication board. 4 vehicles is the number I want, even if a couple of them have blown out windows, because window blueprints are still floating around on the second night, and a glass pane is cheaper than a chassis. Captain Im Pajun's convoy started the day with 7, and is running 3 of them, which means he has 4 spare frames sitting in the wasteland with nothing to do but rust while rotten corpses pile up around his perimeter. He needs to move them off his books before the field dries up. I need them on my books before the next wave of bad news hits the channels. I tell him 4 vehicles for a 6-pack of low-level enhancement potions, plus the window blueprints, plus the bright light skill book as a sweetener. He pushes back. I do not soften. After a round of haggling that boils down to him insisting on the package and me holding my line, his side caves. 2 vehicles trade now, the remaining 2 trade tomorrow if both crews are still alive. It works for me. By the time the deal locks, my trading board has 6 bottles of black iron level low-level enhancement potions, a stack of window blueprints, and the bright light spellbook. I stash the blueprints. The bright light I leave on the shelf for now, because I still have not decided whether to learn it myself or hand it to whoever earns it tomorrow. These guys really did rake it in. I sit in my rig turning the potions over in my hand. I have already seen the footage Captain Im Pajun sent, the rotten corpse swarm that filled the screen like an ant pile being kicked. If his crew is willing to spend 6 low-level enhancement potions on a trade and still kept some for themselves, they must have cracked at least 100 material boxes that day, and a few of those almost certainly came out bronze level. I am not the only one snowballing on the second night. I cannot afford to fall behind. I open one of the low-level enhancement potions and knock it back at a single swallow. 6 bottles would not stretch far across his whole convoy, but funneled into one person they can flip an attribute panel by 10 points without breaking a sweat. The taste is somewhere between battery acid and cough syrup, and that somehow has become the taste of progress. The panel updates while I am still wiping my mouth. Strength reads 20 plus 1 and an equipment bonus of 2, against a current tier 1 ceiling of 30. Agility reads 18 plus 1 and an equipment bonus of 4. Constitution sits at 17 plus 1 and an equipment bonus of 2. Spirit reads 17 plus 1 and an equipment bonus of 3. Sanity has slid down to 63 out of 100, which is fine for now because anything above 10 is survivable and I will be sleeping it back tonight. 20 points in every column once equipment is on. Tier 1 ceiling is right there in front of me. I can practically smell it. If the second batch of low-level enhancement potions arrives tomorrow, I push through the ceiling. If they do not arrive, the world is not ended, because the second night will have other gifts and I have already learned not to bet the farm on a single trade. Vehicles are scarce right now. Almost no one in the area has rolled a vehicle blueprint yet. Most people are still walking, and the first thing any lucky stranger does after getting a windfall is reach for wheels. There are over 20,000 people in this area. Some of them are going to crack open a bronze-level box and come looking for me. Trade is a sweetener. The real engine is still my own hands on the boxes. I check the rest of my sanity and decide there is enough left for another sweep of the trading board. The second night is when the suffering really starts to show. The boards are crowded with people offering valuables for food, for water, for ammunition, for anything edible. I am long on food and short on patience for begging, so I scroll past most of it. What I am hunting are special items and blueprints. The haul is decent. 3 carriage sections appear on the board cheap, which puts me at 4 counting the one I already had stashed. Once they all clip together, this rig is going to be the 100-ton king of a mobile fortress, a steel snake that bends through the trees with armor on its scales. I round out the order with a bathroom blueprint, a bedroom blueprint, a few interior fittings I can afford to be wasteful with. The prices on basic interiors have collapsed in a single day. One blueprint catches my eye and almost wins it. A vehicle modification labeled planting room, complete with a temperature regulation system. It is a high-utility build that almost nobody on the second night can actually use, because almost nobody has the carriage to install it in. That is exactly why it is cheap. I do not have a plant talent and I have nobody on the crew who has confessed to one, but a blueprint at this price is a blueprint at this price. I take it. The clock crawls toward midnight while my sanity bar climbs back into the green. By the time I am ready to crack boxes, I have 5 sitting in inventory worth opening, 3 bronze level and 2 black iron level, the rock rank trash I cleaned out earlier in the convoy. I am beginning to feel rich enough that I should stop wasting sanity on anything below bronze. I open them one after another. The bronze level boxes drop a shell armor vehicle modification, a pair of light feather leather pants, 2 more low-level enhancement potions, a stack of 20 universal fuel, 50 iron blocks, 20 crystal stones, a skill upgrade book at bronze level, and a fireball spell. My greed talent kicks in over the same boxes and squeezes out a hybrid engine vehicle modification, another 20 crystal stones, another 20 universal fuel, a special metal gift package, a light feather dagger, an ice crystal staff, basic meditation at bronze level, and a goblin summoning skill at bronze level. The 2 black iron level boxes drop 2 AK-47 rifles, 20 magazines between them, 20 crystal stones, 40 iron blocks, an appliance set modification, and a connecting carriage modification. Greed siphons off another low-level enhancement potion, a small stack of copper blocks and wood, 10 more universal fuel, a sack of rice, and a food gift package. I count the low-level enhancement potions, 2 bronze level and 1 black iron level. At this rate, the tier 1 ceiling is not a ceiling, it is a speed bump. The equipment is where the night really opens up. Most of the drops are light feather pieces, all of them green, all of them stamped out of whatever the goblins were running before they ran into me. The panel reads me the light feather leather pants at bronze level, telling me they grant strength +2 and agility +4, with effects halved if the attribute climbs past 60, and a 5-piece set bonus waiting at the end. The light feather dagger is the same story, strength +3 and agility +3 halved past 60, set bonus pending. The set bonus is agility +10 when all 5 pieces are worn. I do not bother hiding the grin. 2 pieces stack 12 points onto my panel without anyone having to bleed for them. That is more than the 6 bottles of low-level enhancement potions Captain Impei Jun handed over earlier. With these 2 pieces on, my strength and agility crowd 30 in equipment alone. Tier 2 stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a doorway. What I want next is the snow white staff. I lift the ice crystal staff out of the pile and the cold rolls off it in waves. The thing radiates a chill the way a freezer door does, and if I hung it in the bedroom of the rig, I could probably switch the air conditioning off. The panel reads it as bronze level, spirit +7 on the wearer, plus the ice crystal arrow spell on tap for the cost of mental energy. I open a window and test fire one into the trees, because I never trust a tool I have not aimed. The arrow forms faster than I am ready for. The moment my will touches the staff, some kind of rule clicks into place, like a song I already half know, and a magic circle blooms across the staff's head. A pale blue ice crystal arrow shoots out before I am even sure my thought finished. It crystallizes mid-flight, freezes the rain in a corridor around its path, and punches a clean hole through a thick tree at the far edge of the clearing. The power is real. The hole is bigger than the AK-47 would have left. My side of the convoy notices. Within seconds, the walkie crackles with MU asking me what just happened. Voice still half asleep. Words a little careful. I tell her it is nothing. I was testing a prop. I want to keep tinkering, but the wrongness in the trees behind us has my attention. I am not the only one who feels it. MU had been on the edge of sleep, and the test fire snapped her up like a fish out of water. She flips on her wind whisper before her boots are even on the floor. A breath later, her voice comes back over the walkie. There is a wolf in the trees, she tells me, staring at us, and it looks like the same one that has been on our trail. She does not need to say which wolf. The shadow demon wolf, the one I tagged but never closed, has been collecting interest the whole drive. The guardian buff is the only reason it is not already on the carriage. The buff ticks down whether I think about it or not. Hyung Woong's voice comes in next. He has the perception range of a tier 2, and he picked it up the same moment MU did. He tells me, low, that this is a shadow demon wolf, that it is a greed-driven creature with a long memory, that it has decided we are its kill. He says if it were alone, he could handle it, but shadow demon wolves run in packs unless they have been kicked out of theirs, and we cannot count on this one being a real solo. His voice carries the particular tightness people get when they are reminding themselves not to be cocky. I sit with that for a second. This thing has been bird-dogging us for hours and has not committed once. That is not the behavior of a creature that has a pack on the way. That is the behavior of a beast that knows it cannot win a head-on fight and is hoping we make a mistake. I tell the walkie that this is a lone wolf, that it has been hanging back for a reason, that it is the patient kind of insidious, and that as long as it does not commit, we ignore it. Tomorrow it will be the one being hunted. I stash the ice crystal staff. Strong tool, wrong hands. The staff leans into spirit and ranged casting, and I have a fistful of pistols. Whoever earns it on the next operation can have it. I tag it as a reward in my head and move on. 2 bronze-level vehicle modification blueprints, shell armor and hybrid engine, are exactly what I want for the rig. The skill upgrade book turns out to be a black iron to bronze level converter, which I file. Fireball and instant kill are both attack spells, one for range, one for the close burst, one keyed to spirit, one keyed to agility. Paired with the light feather dagger, instant kill is the obvious pickup, and I learn it without hesitation. Fireball can wait. I have a gun for the long arc. The last 2 skills make me pause. Basic meditation reads as a flat passive, spirit +6 and a mental power recovery boost on top. That one I take. It is free. It scales me. It costs me nothing to keep humming in the background. Goblin summoning is the strange one. Bronze level, consumes mental power, lets me summon up to 10 goblins to fight on my side, with the catch that they only stick around as long as the mental power keeps draining, like contract beasts almost. I cannot picture where they come from, whether they are real goblins yanked through some portal, or shadow puppets I am buying with my own brain. The description does not say whether they are loyal or whether they bail the second the field gets hot. I park it. Tomorrow I will ask Hyung Woong what he thinks. Tonight, I learn basic meditation and stop. I knock the rest of the low-level enhancement potions back without checking the math. 2 bronze level and 1 black iron level in a single sitting. Last night, 6 bottles felt like a windfall. Tonight, 3 bottles eclipse them, and I do not even bother running the numbers before I lay down. I sleep harder than I have any right to. Morning comes through the dense forest in thin gold strips. The rain that ran all day yesterday has finally stopped. I peel myself off the folding bed inside the rig and stretch out the stiffness, the way I have started doing every morning without thinking about it. The first thing I check is the panel. The next thing I do is burn a sliver of sanity on 2 black iron level boxes I never cracked, just to make sure I am not sitting on a low-level enhancement potion I forgot about. Black iron level boxes do not surprise me much anymore. They drop 1 black iron level low-level enhancement potion this time, which greed treats like 4 boxes for the rest of the world, and I treat the potion like a snack and chase it with breakfast. 2 more points across every attribute. The numbers tick up the way I have come to expect. The panel updates. Strength reads 24 plus 2 and 7 from equipment, against the current tier 1 ceiling of 30. Agility reads 22 plus 2 and 11 from equipment. Spirit reads 22 plus 2 and 2 from equipment. Spirit reads 20 plus 8 and 3 from equipment. Sanity sits at 80 out of 100. With equipment on, every column is past 30. I am scraping the inside of the tier 1 ceiling now, and I can feel the door past it. I save the remaining black iron level boxes. I do not need the burn right now. I step out into the morning and let the damp air hit me. The dense forest smells like wet bark and cold soil, and the faint sourness of the campfire that died overnight. The only ugly note is the giant wolf still watching from the trees, eyes patient, body half blended into the shadow it lives in. This tag-along is starting to get on my nerves. The walkie chirps. Whoever is on watch wants instructions on the wolf. I tell them not to worry about it, that if it pushes, we just take the highway and outrun it. It is half a lie. I have been turning the shadow demon wolf problem over since last night, and the answer my hand keeps drifting toward is the AK-47 in the stack of magazines I never burned. Even a tier 2 creature has a finite tank. The goblin shaman taught me that, and the wolf is no shaman. I take the hybrid engine and the shell armor blueprints out and roll them into the rig before the others have finished eating. The engine purrs deeper. The hull thickens out by a layer. By the time breakfast is on the fire, the rig looks meaner, and the people around it stand a little straighter. We boil noodles and add eggs and meat and the leafy greens I have been hoarding, and people eat with their hands wrapped around their bowls because the air is cool and the food is hot, and the small comforts matter. After the first round of bowls comes down, I bring out the stuff worth fighting over. I lay the ice crystal staff, the goblin summoning book, and the fireball book on the table. I keep my voice flat. These are the rewards on the table for today, I tell them. Depending on how you perform, one of these is yours. The clearing goes still. The ice crystal staff is the one their eyes keep drifting toward. Imyu does not bother hiding her eagerness. The 3 women in the back vehicle who have been coasting since they joined suddenly look very awake. Nobody is reckless enough to grab. The drive has trained that out of them. Imyu and Imwu glance at each other and I can see the calculation. They already have 1 bronze level piece between them. They are quick. They have the talents. They have a real shot. Hyungwoong is the only one in the same weight class and he does not seem interested. The way a man with 2 cars in the driveway is not interested in a third. Hyungwoong stays in his chair and chews. He has not bothered to bid on a piece of equipment. He swallows and asks me where the convoy is going today. Bronze level matters less to a man who has worn silver level. He lost his piece somewhere along the way, but he has not forgotten the weight of it. He is asking the route question because he wants to know whether to plant his feet today or float along. The hunger in Imyu's eyes flickers over to me at the same time. The target, I tell them, is the goblin tribe. We raid it before nightfall and leave the dense forest. No padding, no hedging. I am here for hunting and for material boxes, and now that I have a goblin shaman's nameplate, I have the address. The 3rd day arrives tomorrow and I want to be on the highway when it does. Imyu pumps the air out of her lungs at the word tribe. She wants to back the plan, but yesterday's tier 2 encounter is still close to her ribs. She works herself up to it and asks the question I knew was coming. Could there be tier 3 goblins in the tribe, she asks. Can we really handle that? Hyungwoong cuts in before I can. There are definitely tier 3 goblins in a goblin tribe, he tells her, and possibly tier 4. Every goblin group births a leader. A goblin king is at least tier 3, and as long as it lives, no goblin in its tribe will run. The goblin king is the strategic asset, not the soldier. The clearing tightens. Even I take a breath. A goblin king. I want to grind. I want the boxes. I want it all under safe conditions. A tier 2 is already at the high end of what I can outshoot. A tier 3 may carry 100 points across the board, plus silver equipment, maybe even gold. Even AK rounds start to bounce off tier 2 hides at the wrong angle. I squeeze the goblin shaman's nameplate in my pocket the way some people work a rosary. We scout first, I tell them. We map the tribe. If raiding the tribe is not feasible, we switch targets and grind their raiding parties or whatever else is moving in the forest. 2 parties like yesterday and the haul is still significant. The clearing breathes out. Plans they can survive are plans they can support. We pack up and roll. Imyu still has the lead. The man and woman couple sit in her carriage. I am behind her. The 3 women run in their own carriage behind me. Hyungwoong's trio brings up the rear. I figured the morning would run as smooth as yesterday. By the second hour, my face has gone hard. The Shadow Demon Wolf is the reason. It cannot punch me through the Guardian buff, and it cannot punch Hyungwoong because his tier 2 presence is enough to make it think twice. So it hunts the rest. Every time Imyu's Wind Whisper picks up something out in the trees, the wolf is there first, scaring the prey off with a wave of its aura, or running it down a step ahead of us. Every potential box we might have rolled over evaporates because the wolf got there first or scattered the locals first. This thing has decent scouting and better speed than my rig in this terrain. I sit in the cabin grinding my teeth. We are pointed at the goblin tribe and this creature is sweeping the ground in front of us. If we keep going at this pace, we get to the tribe with nothing in the pantry and the wolf still on our flank, which is the same as walking in naked. I could pull the convoy onto the highway right now and lose the wolf in an hour. But that throws away the second night's harvest. Yesterday, I cleared 4 bronze level boxes off this dense forest. Walking out feels like leaving cash on a table. This beast. My jaw stays clenched. I want out of the cabin and onto the trigger. The walkie crackles. Hyungwoong's voice comes through. Then Hyungwoong is overridden by a softer, colder voice I have not heard much of. Little Fox Eun-gi, she tells me, very calmly, that we should deal with the Shadow Demon Wolf first, that her talent can help. Hyungwoong cuts back in like a parent who has been ambushed by their kid in front of company. He tells her she has not recovered from her last activation, and that if she uses her ability again, she may end up with permanent damage to her mind. He apologizes to me at the same breath, says he can step out and lure the wolf himself. Little Fox Woon-gi is not having it. She tells him she is fine, that the convoy is in trouble, that this is her call. He tells her she is being reckless. The walkie goes silent in that particular way that means both of them are sitting on words they do not want me to hear. I rub the bridge of my nose and ask both of their cars to stop. I want to talk this through with my eyes on them, not through tin. Yesterday's haul was so heavy I never got around to asking what their abilities actually do. The convoy rolls to a stop. Hyungwoong's vehicle pulls alongside mine. He is the first one out, planting himself between his sister and whatever decision I am about to make, every line of him telling me he does not want her on the field. He asks again to handle the wolf alone. He is confident, he tells me, that if it commits he can put it down. Little Fox Woon-gi pokes her head past her brother's elbow before he is done. She tells me she can immobilize the wolf for a short window, that with a short window and Hyungwoong's strength on top, the fight is over. Yuk-chan, sitting behind her, mumbles agreement with Hyungwoong, which is to say, disagreement with her. I cut in, slow down, spell out the danger. Why is it dangerous for her to use her ability? I am not in the mood to gamble somebody else's sister. We can drop the haul and hop the highway. Less harvest, more lives. The math is not hard. Hyungwoong gives me the answer, in the level voice of a man who has rehearsed it many times. Little Fox Woon-ji's talent is Beast Transformation Black Fox. The Black Fox is a mental power creature capable of warping the mind. She used her ability when their cell got jumped during the escape. The backlash is not healed, and a second activation in this state can permanently damage her or reduce her to a child's mind. I make the easy call. Forget it. We hunt elsewhere. Little Fox Woon-gi steps around her brother and speaks at me directly. She says she can do this if I lend her a bronze-level piece of equipment. She tells Hyungwoong she is not as weak as he treats her, that her ability matched against a Tier 2 Shadow Demon Wolf, which is not even a mental attack specialist, is winnable with the right gear. The siblings lock eyes over my head. This is starting to feel like a domestic. I think about the bench. The ice crystal staff is heavy on spirit. The white guardian pendant grants spirit +5 and the magic shield spell, which is the exact safety net a fragile caster needs. I am not stingy. I take both off my neck and hold them out. Try these, I tell her. If you can handle it, do it. If not, we drop the plan and hop the highway. Either way, the staff goes to whoever drops the wolf today as a reward, and the pendant comes back to me when the fight is done. She lights up the moment the items hit her palm. Her brother stops trying to argue. He looks at the wolf in the trees with an expression I would not want pointed at me. A quiet, total hatred that wants to skin a creature and forget the fur. I roll the AK-47 into my hands and step out as backup. Little Fox Woon-gi and Hyungwoong walk into the trees, and I plant my feet at a sniper's angle, range and wind already adjusted. The Shadow Demon Wolf does not run. Whatever calculation runs behind those green eyes, it decides this lopsided meal is finally going to take a bite. It circles, saliva trailing from its jaw, body half-eaten by Shadow. When the two sides close to about 10 paces, both crews react in the same heartbeat. Hyungwoong moves first. He flickers and becomes a 3-meter black bear, a tower of muscle that swings into a forward stance, shielding his sister with its bulk. Black filaments lash out of the trees and hammer into the bear's hide, breaking the skin, drawing blood, but not slowing him. Little Fox Woon-gi stays behind that wall, and the wolf snaps at it because it has miscalculated. The ambush filaments did not land where it needed them to land, and the human in the gear it cannot read is suddenly behind the biggest threat in the forest. The Shadow Demon Wolf opens its huge mouth to commit, but the warning bell in its body fires first. I am already lining the rifle up. So is Little Fox Woon-gi. Pain explodes in the wolf's head before its body knows what hit it, and its energy goes out of its hands. A long ribbon of AK rounds slams into it without its shield to deflect them. The result is much worse for the wolf than the desert eagle was, because this time it has no defense. Hyung-woong's giant black bear closes the gap and the world stops being the wolf's. A mountain of dark fur and pale yellow aura comes down on its skull in a single paw strike. And at this range, with the wolf's mind in pieces, even its reinforced hide gives. The skull does not shatter outright, but it caves. The wolf's huge body topples and the ground cracks where it lands. It whines. One long wretched sound through a broken muzzle, and that whine is the sound of a predator becoming a corpse. I do not negotiate morals with wolves. The AK-47 sings. I keep the angles tight around Hyung-woong's bulk and walk rounds along the wolf's exposed flank. The wolf tries to teleport the way it slipped me before, but Hyung-woong does not give it the breath it needs. He trades injuries for openings, swinging without dodging, and between the two of us the wolf runs out of options. The head goes apart, the body settles. The wolf that has been following me since the second day finally stops following anything. A special metal material box appears beside the body, snow bright, and the breath I have been holding leaks out. One problem off the board. The cost is little fox Woong-gi standing on shaking legs, leaning on the ice crystal staff, blood weeping from her eyes, her face the color of paper. The fox ears that flared on activation are fading. She has swallowed enough of her own blood to leave her teeth pink when she tries to smile. Hyung-woong is on her in a heartbeat, the domineering fighter completely gone, replaced by the older brother who carried her out of the slave column. She tells him she just needs to rest. She tells him that if we had left it alone and it broke through to Tier 3, the whole convoy would have been a meal. I walk over with a low-level enhancement potion in my hand. I have stockpiled a lot of these. I have used none of them on myself, because greed gives me the upside of every potion I hand to someone else. I hold the bottle out. She gives me a fragile smile that the blood she has wiped from her chin somehow makes worse. She thanks me. She tells me she needs to rest before she can give the equipment back. I tell her to keep using it. As long as you need. Her attribute floors are too thin. A Tier 1 trying to land a real impact on a peak Tier 2 without that pendant on her neck would be a corpse. If I yank the staff and the pendant now, the next time she activates the talent she may not come back from it. Hyung-woong nods his thanks without saying much. He tilts the low-level enhancement potion into her mouth carefully, the way you feed a child cough medicine. The potion is not built for mental fatigue. It still helps a little. Color comes back into her cheeks by a degree. I tell Daegwang-hyung to take care of his sister, that the contribution is on the books for both of them. My eyes drift past them to the box on the ground. It is brighter than the others. The light has more of a sun glow to it, and the metal of the casing reads silver under the trees. Silver level material box. The hairs on the back of my neck rise. This was not on my bingo card. I would have settled for a bronze level. Tier 2 creatures do not have to drop bronze level boxes, let alone silver. The drop table is generous today. With my sanity already in the 80s, there is no reason to save it. I spend the sanity, pop the box, and lean in. The panel sings. The box opens with a chime I am getting used to. Inside is a firearm armament vehicle modification, a food supply pack, and a stack of 100 crystal stones. Greed talent siphons off a source energy seed of the dark energy attribute, another low-level enhancement potion, and a metal supply pack. Hyung-woong and Little Fox Woong-gi can see the white light of the box, but the loot is invisible to them. They are not survivors. The box is a curio from another world. Even if Hyung-woong had brought all his Tier 2 strength to bear on it, the casing would not budge. Silver-level equipment is rare even in his city number 7. He owned a silver-level piece once, and most Tier 2 lifeforms there have nothing of the kind. The panel reads the firearm armament as silver level, a vehicle modification that consumes materials to integrate into the rig and produces 2 machine guns. The source energy seed, also silver level, of dark energy attribute, has a 56% chance to awaken source energy in the body when consumed. Silver level is starting to taste different. 2 machine guns on the rig is a cocoon I have wanted since the first night. Once I install them, ammunition will be the bottleneck, not muzzle pressure. Which reminds me of the processing bench sitting unused in my inventory. I have been ignoring it, now I might need it to feed those barrels. I will study it the moment I have a clean hour. The source energy seed is the part that reframes the morning. Hyung-woong fights with energy. The goblin shaman fights with energy. The large goblins do not. Neither do the rank and file goblins. I have been operating without it, attributing the difference to talents and tiers. Apparently I have been missing a piece of physiology the rest of the supernatural world takes for granted. 56%. Not great, not bad. I take the materials and stow them in the rig, but I do not give the order to roll out. I want answers before I gamble on the seed. I find Hyung-woong, who is still hovering over his sister, and ask him plainly about source energy. His face does a polite version of surprise, the kind of surprise you reserve for somebody who asks you what color the sky is. He recovers fast and gives me the lecture I am asking for. Source energy comes from the body's life energy, he tells me. It is generally unlocked through cultivation techniques or external stimulation. In city number 7, awakening is attempted once a person hits Tier 1. He shrugs, because what he is about to say is obvious to him. You understand cultivation techniques, Captain. They are methods, sometimes mediocre, sometimes good, requiring a degree of talent to follow. External stimulation works through people or through objects. There are tier 3 or higher experts who can shock another person's energy awake. There are objects engineered to do the same. So that is how the rest of the world starts the engine. Hyungwoong keeps going. Of the methods, item-based awakening is the safest. You consume the object and either you wake the energy up or you waste the object. No catastrophic failure, just expensive. Cultivation is a slow road. You may pick the wrong manual, you may stall, but only an idiot wakes the wrong energy in a way that hurts. As long as you do not cultivate blindly, the worst outcome is no awakening at all. Artificial awakening, he tells me carefully, is the one that kills people. Another being's power shocks yours into life. If the other being makes a mistake, or if they want you dead, the answer's in their hands and you are gone in a flash. It is also the easiest and most common method. There are even stories of survivors who were beaten with source energy by an enemy, did not die, and woke their own up by accident in the process. I do not need to think hard about which one I am picking, setting aside whether Hyungwoong even can or would. I am not handing him a key to my engine. Not on day 3. We file Artificial Awakening in a folder labeled Later, when the team is bigger and we have known each other long enough that the trust is cement under it. Dark energy, he adds, is one of the stronger flavors of source energy. A solid roll. I tell the convoy to stand by. I climb back into my rig and pour the bronze level low-level enhancement potion down before I consume the seed, because if there is ever a time to stack buffs, it is now. Luck cracks open like a piggy bank. Every attribute lifts 2 points instead of the usual 1. The numbers shift. I take out the source energy seed. It looks like a small bead of black glass, dense and warm, exhaling a thread of faint energy from its surface. Dark energy. In my head, it is shaped like the shadow demon wolf I just killed. There is poetry in that, in the wolf's death feeding the awakening that comes after it. I do not hesitate. I swallow. The seed dissolves on contact with my stomach lining, and the dissolution does not stop where the stomach ends. The whole body lights up at once. Every cell in me wakes the way limbs wake when you uncurl them after a long sit. Only it happens everywhere, simultaneously. A torrent of energy floods up out of nowhere, body and mind both, and the rig actually rocks on its suspension as something in the air around me kicks up wind without weather. I clamp down on it the way Hyungwoong told me. I was braced. The flood swells against the inside of my skin like a volcano under pressure, and then slowly, the pressure gives. The fire banks. The wind dies. The body settles back into the body. It takes 10 minutes, not the hour I budgeted. I would not call it mastery. I would call it grip. This is what a transcendent feels like. A pearl of dark black energy hangs in my open palm. Not heavy, not weightless. When I will it, the ball flows up my arm and coats it in a dark sheen, and the limb gets noticeably tougher and stronger. The panel updates with a new entry simply labeled Dark Energy. The rank is still tier 1. The combat power is not. I might be able to eat a bullet now the way the goblins did when they had something to give back. Of course, if the bullets keep coming, I die like the goblin shaman died. The panel reads Strength 26 plus 2 and 7 from equipment, against the tier 1 ceiling of 30. Agility reads 23 plus 2 and 11 from equipment. Constitution reads 23 plus 2 from equipment. Spirit reads 22 plus 8 from equipment. Sanity is at 78 out of 100. The numbers are short on the equipment side because I lent half of it to Little Fox Woon Gi. Tier 2 is no longer a horizon. It is a line in the dirt I am about to scuff with my boot. I step out of the rig and the air is sharper than it was an hour ago. Perception is louder. From the rig's shadow, I can feel the angle of every gaze pointed at me from the other carriages, even the ones trying to be polite. Hyungwoong steps over with the kind of caution one tier 2 extends another. He keeps a polite distance, the way you would on a busy bus. I ask after Little Fox Woon Gi. He tells me she needs rest, that thanks to my equipment she will be alright. The relief on his face is real. He looks 10 years younger than he did inside the slave column. MU has not been able to sit on her hands. She climbs out of her cab and walks over, talking faster than usual. They watch the wolf go down. Hyungwoong's strength is now sitting in front of her on the ledger, and she has done the math about who is currently the second strongest body in the convoy. Hint, it is not her. She asks me what the call is now, whether we are still going to the goblin tribe. Going, I tell her? Of course we are going. I do not put much weight on the social arithmetic. She is here because she wants to know if the contest is still live. The contest is still live. We get a quick discussion among the three of us, lock the route, and roll. The convoy moves through the trees again. We pass a river on the way, and I take 10 minutes to top off the water tanks. The dense forest, with the wolf off our back, turns out to be less dangerous than I thought. I find a handful of material boxes by hand. Only one is bronze level. After silver, even bronze tastes faded. Black iron tastes like air. The hours slip. The closer we get to the goblin tribe, the more goblin squads we run across. Goblins, slaves on chains, occasional other alien shapes that we do not bother to identify. The goblin tribe owns this stretch of woods. There are no boxes here, because everything that drops a box gets cleared by the locals. Every check-in from MU starts the same way now. Goblin troop detected, several dozen members, sometimes 100 when smaller groups merge for a march. The numbers are wrong for a tribe in a normal sense. They look like they are getting ready for a fight. She pulses back that they are too many for us, asking me to confirm we are bypassing. She had been picking squads to plant her name on the leaderboard at the start of the run. Now she is reporting and asking me to confirm we are bypassing. I am not stupid. Small squads in the trees would be free material boxes. The squads we are running into now would not be free. They would be the last lunch we ever ate. We slide around them. By the time the sliding has cost us the morning, we are looking at the real tribe. This is not a tribe. MU's voice cracks when she calls it back. The numbers are not in the hundreds. The numbers are in the thousands. The valley is packed with goblin bodies, ferocious shapes among the ordinary ones, caves carved into the slopes, burrows underground, makeshift shelters on the open ground. Makeshift shelters on the open ground. A canyon wraps around a mountain, and the canyon is the wall, and inside the wall is everything that walks. MU pipes the count to me on a closed channel. At least a few thousand. My mouth opens around no words. The supernatural world is more unreasonable than I trained for. A tribe in my old common sense topped out at 1,000. A few hundred was already big. A few thousand is a city, and the goblin tribe is, apparently, a city that lives in dirt holes. Well, not impossible. The crew waits while I sit with it. They are not interrupting. They have read enough rooms to know when to keep their mouths shut. I could kill a wave. I have the tools for a wave. But after the wave, picking up the material boxes is the real problem, and getting out is the bigger one. Goblins do not stay shocked for long. I have no bloodlust budget for slaughter that does not pay. I am not a serial killer. I am also not the kind of man who walks away from a silver-level field with empty hands. Find stragglers, I tell MU. Find a safe place to observe. She acknowledges. I have sentry number 1 trail the convoy while I sit on the communication board and pull up the private thread with Captain M. Pajun. I type fast. Captain M, are you free? What method do you use to deal with rotten corpse swarms? Is it convenient to discuss? He is the only contact I have who has eaten swarms of these things and lived to share notes. The reply comes within the second. He asks me if I hit a swarm too. He spells it out for me. There is nothing to hide. I have universal fuel, right? So does he. He sends 2 blueprints, glass bottle and Molotov cocktail. Rotten cores do not have brains. They chase whatever attacks them, pull them in one direction with a fast vehicle, throw the cocktails from the rest of the convoy, retreat past the burn, return after the field is cooled, harvest the material boxes. It is monster kiting, ported into the apocalypse. There is risk. If a vehicle gets surrounded, throwing cocktails fries the convoy. Even with the Guardian buff, humans pull aggro. The Shadow Demon Wolf taught me that already. No wonder he was begging for vehicles. Every vehicle is a kite. I look at the items he attached. The glass bottle is a normal grade item. No leaks, nothing fancy. The Molotov cocktail is a normal grade firebomb made from a glass bottle and universal fuel, with a polite warning not to light it indoors. I switch to my pitch. Are you selling Molotov cocktails? Glass bottles would also work. I can probably build them myself. Goblins have a little more brain than corpses. I want safer guarantees, and the rig needs the upgrade lined up so that even a tier 3 goblin appearing on the field is a problem I can shoot at and not a problem that ends me. He replies before I finish thinking. Of course, no problem. We need vehicles. Glass and fuel bombs are nothing to him. Someone in his convoy rolled the production blueprint. Their materials are deep. Vehicles are what he wants. Vehicles, more, always more. We haggle. I am not freeloading. If the plan works, the harvest is going to be many vehicles worth. If the plan fails, my safety still costs whatever I am willing to spend. He agrees to keep the glass coming as long as we are operating, with a soft cap on the volume before we have to start trading other supplies. He throws in 500 pre-assembled Molotov cocktails. The 2 vehicles I had earmarked for tomorrow's potion trade go to him now. 500 Molotov cocktails and over 1,000 normal glass bottles land in my inventory. He clearly does not care about the glass at all. I do not care how he's doing in his own ledger. We are both better off than we were 10 minutes ago. I tell MU to stop hunting stragglers and find a place to rest. Understood, she returns. While she scouts, I sweep the trading board one more time and buy every carriage blueprint and every room blueprint I can find at reasonable cost. I was hoping Captain M. Pajun would sell me some of his, but he is building his own behemoth and is not in a sharing mood. The board has enough volume for me to expand my rig several times over. The crew finds a rest spot with no creatures lurking. The carriages cluster up. MU and the others watch me through their windows, waiting to see what I've decided. Thousands of goblins is not the kind of math you do in your head. You all know the situation at the goblin tribe, I tell them. My idea is, we try. I look at the bodies around me. Strangers. All of them. Survivors. Slaves. I picked up every one of them along the road. They have not been tested. The Shadow Demon Wolf was the closest thing to a real test on the trip, and even that was not collective. Now we test them. If it works, the harvest is everything. If it does not, we may be done for. One of the women in the back vehicle, the one who has been coasting since she joined MU, cannot keep her mouth shut. She asks if it is not too dangerous. She says she is not questioning me, she is afraid. She does not want anything bad to happen to me either. She tells me she will listen to whatever I say. I glance at her. She glances around at the rest of the group looking for a backer and finds none, and so she droops into the kind of frail-shouldered pose that women like her have learned makes men back off. That is the kind of person who only has one outcome on this team. Leave the team. I do not say it out loud. The ones with brains know it already. The ones without never will. That is why we prepare in advance, I tell them. I will not let anyone throw their life away for nothing. For now, you all prepare this. I bring the glass bottles and the Molotov cocktails out and lay them on the ground in front of everyone. They look almost identical. The difference is whether the bottle is sealed and full. Hyung Wong scratches at his beard and glances at the surrounding trees. Is this, he asks, a fire attack? He is the local expert on goblins here. He explains calmly that the goblins are savage and stupid, but not brainless. They feel fear. They dodge flame. The rain has stopped, the ground is still damp, but starting a forest fire in here would be a mistake we may not finish paying for. If the cocktails do not have a clean delivery system, the goblins will simply scatter, and we will gain nothing. That is exactly why we scout first, I tell him. I am not going to charge the tribe head on. We hit the outlying camps first, especially the ones with slaves. Liberating the slaves expands our manpower at the same time it weakens the tribe. I have ruled with a hard frame so far, but the frame is not a wall. If anyone in this circle has a better idea, I will absolutely listen. I will absolutely pull people aside to ask about things I do not understand. The road has shown me plenty of stray goblins out doing chores away from the main mass, holding mines, holding breeding grounds. These goblins farm. The things they farm are alien and disgusting, and a lot of the labor is being done by other slaves they have taken. In-Yu put the pieces together watching the road. This is good, Hyung Wong says. As long as we keep the goblins in chaos, we have a window. The Tier 3 Goblin King is the problem. I will deal with the Tier 3 when the time comes, I tell him. The truth is, I want the silver level blueprint in the rig first. With enough ammunition, 2 machine guns on a fortified armored vehicle gives a Tier 3 a reason to keep its head down. Numbers stop mattering as much when the front of the formation eats lead. Goblins are timid creatures by nature. Push them past the panic threshold and they rout. Routing tribes drop boxes. I do not need to wipe the tribe out. I just need a stampede. Nobody argues. They watch me pull out a small mountain of universal fuel. I had cracked enough boxes earlier that even pouring into thousands of bottles does not break my reserves. The bottles get filled in production line fashion. Glass at one end, fuel in the middle, wick stuffed at the other end. Sealed, set aside. I have other things to do, I tell them. You all handle these. I tell MU I have a second task for her, to map the route out of this area to the highway. Wide road, no obstacles ahead. If anything goes sideways, we abandon the plan and drive straight onto the highway, and goblins on foot will not catch our rigs. Understood, she says. She leaves for the scout. The rest of the crew gets on the bottling line. The pile grows by the minute. The more cocktails on hand, the longer a real route can run. If we run out before they break, they may run us out instead. While the assembly line builds my pyrotechnics, I retreat into the rig and build my dongfeng. I lock the doors. I do not bother hiding it. I lay every blueprint I have onto the carriage shell, one after another, and the gift packs I have been hoarding from box drops melt down to feed the materials. It feels like clearing a junk drawer. Carriage sections click on one after another, and the rig stretches out into something so long that the term mobile home is laughable. The lifting partition turns it into a 2-floor build, with armored shells on some carriages and lighter trim on others. Looked at flat, it is a train. 2 stories, a spine of steel that bends through trees. The hull armor is bronze level, the engine is bronze level. I do not know whether the upgrade I am about to use will lift those further. I keep going. Bedrooms drop in one after another, a kitchen, a bathroom, a planting room. The generator upgrades into a power generation room. The processing bench gets eaten by a full processing room. Even the silver level blueprints go in. I doubt the low level upgrade blueprints go in. 2 machine guns rack onto the rig, one front, one back, on opposite sides. The rig is not yet big enough to give each gun a full firing arc, but the deterrent is loud. It looks like a weapon now, not a vehicle. The transformation runs for dozens of breaths. The crew outside has stopped pretending to bottle and is just staring. What is going on? This is what a survivor can do. The survivors in the City Number 7 crowd think on different frequencies. The City Number 7 side has never seen a survivor really stretch out before today. They knew there was a gap. Today they see it. The others are doing simpler math. They are wondering how much loot I have actually been sitting on, and whether the inside of a rig this big can fit them too. Nobody says any of that. They whisper. Their hands keep moving on the bottles. They are afraid that going slow will draw my eye. They are overthinking it. My eye is on the rig. I pull out the most important blueprint of the day, the low-level upgrade blueprint. bronze level. The same upgrade blueprint that once turned a small electric scooter into a hybrid tricycle on the very first day. The rig has grown a great deal since then. Most of the new mass is still black iron level under the hood, with bronze and silver patches stuck on top. There is a lot of room for the blueprint to bite. Use low-level upgrade blueprint, I tell the system. I press the blueprint against the rig's hull. White light kicks out hard. There is a half beat where the panel lags, as if even the system is taking a breath. Then the prompt appears. The system tells me the hybrid tricycle, count 1, is the chassis under conversion, and asks me to pick a direction. Speed, defense, attack, or comprehensive. Then it asks me to pick a form. Tricycle form, armored vehicle form, or any one of several additional options it lists out. I want everything. I pick comprehensive. I pick armored vehicle. The blueprint expands. The system reads off the hybrid armored vehicle template. Bronze level. Materials required. 1 hybrid tricycle, 80 glass, 150 rubber, 180 leather, 30 battery, 500 iron block, 400 crystal stone, plus electronic components. The list runs long enough that I do not bother counting. Most of it is in my inventory from the boxes. The fractions I am short on, I trade for food on the board without thinking. The materials vanish in a single white surge. The light wraps the whole rig. Inside, the 2-story carriage reshapes according to my will. Walls partition out a bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, the processing room, the planting room, more. I quietly designate the second floor as mine and reserve the first floor for whoever earns a seat. The exterior changes. The 2 machine guns no longer sit fixed. The upgrade has installed a transfer rail so they can retract and slide along any direction I choose, instead of being locked front back. Gun ports run along the walls now, closed by default, ready to open on command so anyone inside can stick an AK-47 through and fire. It is the same trick as a cash transport truck. The interior locks, the outside hardens, the vehicle takes its final shape. It has serious drawbacks. It is so long and so wide that maneuvering will be slow, which is exactly why I have not built it before. Length is close to 50 meters. Width is about 8 meters. A behemoth this size needs a road built for it. If I had not seen the wide trunk road on the way in, I would not dare put it on wheels. The road we used to enter the area runs 10 vehicles wide. It is enough for me. The dense forest will fight back with tree trunks, but the rig will simply shove them aside. I take a slow walk around the outside. The hull is thick enough that small arms fire would only leave paint scuffs. The protective glass on every side has been upgraded. Bulletproof, one-way visibility, so I see out and outsiders cannot see in. The thing is a real turtle shell on tires. The tires themselves have changed. 16 wheels now, all bronze level, each one significantly larger, with aggressive treads stamped into them. Their defense and their grip have both leveled up. The panel reads the rig as hybrid armored vehicle, bronze level, a high-grade armored vehicle with vast interior space and integrated defense and weapon systems. Maximum speed of 130 kilometers per hour, electric range of 1600 kilometers, fuel range of 3800 kilometers. The numbers translate into multiple days of driving on a single full tank and full charge. The top speed is honestly mediocre. A standard sedan would beat it. Then again, a sedan is not a steel behemoth. I am done outside. I climb in. The door opens by itself as I approach, and the step extends without me asking. I could pull myself up with one arm if I wanted to. The vehicle is being polite anyway. Welcome, master. Sentry number 1 is at your service. The interior is a wall of black screen. The driver's console looks small in front of the giant display. There is no tricycle handlebar anymore. The driver's seat is now a leather sofa. The dash is brushed metal trimmed in leather, and the cabin has room to lie down flat. Sentry number 1 tells me this is its communicator, that even if I am not in the vehicle, I can contact it through the communicator to issue instructions. A panel slides back near the dash and a phone-shaped object pushes forward. Screen off. A smooth black slab. I pick it up and the screen lights with Sentry number 1's chosen icon. How far does this reach? I ask. Sentry number 1 tells me the maximum range varies by environment, that within roughly 100 kilometers communication is reliable. If I want, a tracking mode can be set so that if I leave the maximum range, it will travel in the last known direction. It will always catch up to me. It is solving problems before I have raised them. This is starting to look less like a piece of software and more like a colleague with no opinions of its own. The artificial intelligence has texture now, not just polite menus. If I am ever cut off, I want Sentry number 1 coming after me. The chance is low, but the cost of preparation is nothing. I set the tracking mode. Yes, master. Setting successful. Beyond the new agility of the artificial intelligence, Sentry number 1 has gained range and richness. Its scouting radius around the rig extends out to a full kilometer. Approaching creatures get tagged and flagged on the panel. Inside the rig, the same artificial intelligence runs an internal monitor, watching the cabins and the corridors, ready to lock the carriages or even operate the machine guns at my word. On this thing, there's essentially no privacy. I shake my head. That is a feature, not a flaw. If someone on board ever entertains the wrong idea, I want to know first. The cost is that if they figure out the monitor exists, they may resent it. I solve the resentment problem by not mentioning the monitor. The ones with brains will assume it. The ones without never will. Sentry number 1, I ask how much ammunition is loaded for the machine guns. The machine guns are equipped with 5,000 rounds each of 16.8mm ammunition. Maximum firing rate, 500 rounds per minute. I freeze. 16.8mm caliber. This is not a machine gun. This is an autocannon dressed up in a more polite job title. 5,000 rounds, for a weapon firing 500 rounds a minute, is 10 minutes of full spit fire. 10 minutes of autocannon on the front of a fortress, against creatures that bleed when they get hit, is enough to decide most fights I am likely to get into. I am not going to war with a nation. I am hunting tribes. My ambitions reach a little higher. With a rig this hard to crack and weapons this loud, the only way a Goblin King outtrades me is if the king has a similar item, which I am betting it does not. For a beat, I imagine driving straight into the tribe and just opening up. I let the thought live for 2 seconds. Then I shoot it. Reason wins. Sentry number 1 tells me the processing room may have what I need. Sentry number 1 is solving the next problem before I name it. Ammunition. I have a processing room blueprint that was originally just a processing bench, which got merged in during the build. I know roughly what a processing room does from the name. I do not know yet what it can really output. This way, master. The processing room sits on the first floor near the stairs. The door is labeled in tidy steel letters. The door opens at my approach. The inside is anticlimactic. Less than 20 square meters, mostly empty. A control console in one corner, a small intake station with what looks like the old processing bench docked into it, and a finished product chute. An empty warehouse with a workbench would not look very different. This is the processing room. Sentry number 1 tells me I can check the currently processable items, and that the processing room can currently process up to tier 2 items. I walk over to the bench. The merge has been quiet, but it has done its job. Calling it a bench undersells it. There is an input station, an output station, a center display, and apparently a portal to ingest materials from the outside that I have not even mapped yet. It really is simple. I tap the screen. The list of inputs is honest. Wood, iron blocks, bronze, electronic components, glass. The processing room will eat raw materials and spit out usable pieces. Trees outside can be hauled in and processed. Ores convert into stone, iron blocks, copper blocks. Electronics and glass can be built up from cheaper feedstocks. I think of Captain Im Pajun's bottle production. Yes, the room will process glass. The output is fixed at one piece at a time, which means to turn it into a glass bottle proper, I would still need to draw the shape. Less of a freebie than I hoped, but still a reasonable line. I scroll. Crossbow bolts. Iron axes. Black iron crossbow. I scroll faster. I am looking for what I really want, and what I really want is exactly what shows up. Bullet ammunition. Various pistols. Even some rifles. Sniper rifles, artillery shells, and machine guns are not on the list. Those are tier 3 or require side conditions the processing room cannot meet at tier 2. Tier 2 processing room. Right now, most people do not have a vehicle, and the ones who do not have enough chassis to host a processing room at all. I have moved into a different bracket. 16.8mm ammunition. AK-47. Am I supposed to become an arms dealer if no one else is doing it? I might be the only one, and if I do not do it, someone else eventually will, which means competition will arrive and bring its own headaches. I would rather be the first vendor on the shelf. I stand there at the bench for a beat, run the math one more time. As long as I personally keep snowballing fast enough, distributing weapons does not endanger my position. It accelerates it. The right people will trade rare materials, low-level enhancement potions, and the rest of their second night drops to put a real rifle in their hands. Common goods cannot pay for premium goods. That is not a controversial business model. Sentry number 1. I tell it. Process 16.8mm ammunition. Process 10 AK-47 rifles with paired magazines. I funnel iron blocks, bronze, gunpowder, electronic components into the input. The resources I am burning come back 10 times over once the first batch of weapons leaves my hands. As trade goods, Sentry number 1 runs the robotic arms. Materials feed in, finished items shoot out. Speed is not instant. A round comes out roughly every second. A rifle takes 10 minutes. Acceptable. I leave the processing room to work. I walk the rest of the rig. The planting room is the small enclosed room I imagined, temperature regulated, with simulated sunlight panels and shallow trays of various soils. Empty for now. Nothing planted. Someone on the crew probably has a plant talent. I make a note. I do not even know the name of the person I am thinking about. If she performs in the goblin operation, I will hand the planting room to her and let her develop the talent at no cost to me. I keep walking. The second floor master bedroom has windows that let me see the surroundings clearly, an attached bathroom, an attached kitchen, the kind of layout an unfussy apartment in the city would have. The standalone planting and processing trades go on the first floor, where guests live. The roof has a lifting mechanism. When I want to, I can raise the second floor ceiling to take in the air. The protective glass inside the raised section can open or close at will. In other words, even if I raise the roof, ordinary attacks would not affect the interior. I climb back down to the bay and walk the 2 machine guns one more time. At my command, a robotic arm extends from the chassis and lifts the gun into a mounting platform that can pivot to any side of the rig. Sentry number 1 handles the aiming and the feed, and a smaller arm chambers the belt without me touching it. I rest my hand on the cold barrel and try to picture what a 16.8mm round does to flesh. And the answer is that it does not so much wound as it disassembles. An AK-47 round is already a serious object. Set side by side with a machine gun round, it looks like a pencil next to a marker. I'm enjoying this. All fear stems from a lack of firepower. I run that sentence in my head and decide I want it embroidered on something. When I step back out of the rig, Hyung Woong and the others are still cooking up Molotov cocktails. They look up, they call me captain, and they have 100 questions queued behind their eyes, but they hold them. I nod once and let my attention drift to the cocktail pile, because the next problem is already in front of me. Throwing these things by hand is going to land them 10 meters out, 12 if someone has a good arm. The goblins are not rotten cores on Captain Im Pajun's stretch of highway. They run, they swarm, they call in friends. I need a tool. There are 2 paths. I can rig something to launch them, or I can list the cocktails on the trading board, drop them at the goblins' feet via the listing system once they are in position, and trigger the fire from there. I can also plant traps. I let all 3 live in my head at once and start scrolling the trading board for something I can adapt. My past purchases have all been blueprints and enhancement potions. I have basically ignored the miscellaneous tools tab. I open it now and start flipping. A projectile launcher catches my eye, listed as pairable with arrows and customizable in size, with a note saying it can be modified into a fixed ballista. The seller asks for food or vehicles. The image looks handmade, wood and metal, a small siege engine the size of a cabinet. I open a private channel with the seller. His handle reads Wang Wei. I ask him if he can modify the projectile launcher into something more like a catapult. I tell him I need a few units that can launch items weighing at least 10 plus pounds, that the range needs to be at least 50 meters, that accuracy matters, and that mobility does not, because I will mount them on vehicles. Wang Wei answers almost instantly as if he was watching the screen, waiting for someone like me. He says he can do it, but it will not be fast, at least an hour per unit, that he wants me to supply materials, and that he wants 100 kilograms of food per unit as labor. Any kind of food is fine. He adds, with the cheap directness of a man who has been chewing through anxiety all morning, that he will guarantee the build performs better than I described, because his talent is in the crafting itself, and several of his people are helping. He also recognizes me as the survivor who shared the original Black Fog intelligence on the boards, and says that if I have a spare vehicle, he would rather take that. He has flipped his whole hand face up on the first deal. He has no idea how to bargain. I shrug it off. 100 kilograms of food is nothing to me at this point. I have opened so many boxes of rice and flour that I could feed a town. I tell him the vehicles are already spoken for. The food price is fine, and to start immediately and send me 1 finished unit so I can verify. Then I ask him why he is buying vehicles and not handcrafting one himself. He says he can build a frame, but engines are hard. And besides, there are quite a few of them, and they would be extremely grateful. The word grateful, in that tone, has weight on it. I ask him whether he is still inside the city streets. He says yes. His relatives and his co-workers' relatives are all there, and they do not have enough vehicles to set out. They are building what they can, but the convoy includes elderly and weak and injured, and a hand-built car is not a real car when the black fog rolls in. I remember the hybrid engine blueprint at Black Iron Grade that I shopped to Captain Im Pajun, and that Captain Im Pajun barely glanced at. I push it through the channel to Wang Wei without ceremony. I tell him to look at the spec. Please, he writes. You must trade it to us. I will give you 3 catapults free. That is 3 hours of his time donated. I tell him the trade is settled, that I will throw in another 100 kilograms of food on top, and that I want the 3 catapults finished as fast as he can move. I tell him to send me the parts list. A skilled crafter stuck on a dying street is the kind of person I want, owing me a favor. Charity cost me nothing. The engine blueprint was already burning a hole in my inventory, and next time I need something custom, the line is already open. Wang Wei thanks me in a way that reads as someone who has been holding their breath for 3 days finally exhaling. He fires the list over. I sweep the trading board for the materials and bounce them all back through the listing system. Then I sit down and start hand-rolling Molotov cocktails myself, because everything else in motion needs hours to finish, and I am not the kind of person who watches the clock. While the cocktails come together, I empty my stockpile of black iron level material boxes. I burn a wave of sanity to do it through greed, since we are about to stop operations for a few hours anyway. The yield is disappointing. 1 black iron level potion, +1 to strength and +1 to agility. I make a note that, going forward, greed gets reserved for bronze level and above. The math at black iron level has stopped being worth the sanity drain. I'm graduating out of my own old habits. Time slips past in the soft way it does when there are no zombies trying to chew through the wall. About an hour in, Mu comes back. She bounds up to the campsite excited, ready to prove her worth, only to discover that I have been talking to Wang Wei the whole time she was gone, that 3 of the spare vehicles already wear catapults welded to their frames, and that the armored rig parked behind me has metastasized into a small condominium on tires. She covers her mouth with one hand, gapes at the rig, and forgets for a moment why she came back. She left for an hour, not a month. I can see the math grinding behind her eyes. I ask her about the route. She tells me she has a workable path for the regular vehicles, but the armored rig is going to catch on dense forest in a few places, mud on others. I tell her not to worry about it, that ordinary trees can be shoved aside, that I will only get stuck if I take it into a real bog, and that worst case I list the rig on the trading board and call it back later. She nods and lets the worry go. I tell her to rest, then to walk over and look at one of the catapults, because we are going to lean on those things hard. She heads off to inspect them. By the time the third catapult is mounted, the Molotov cocktails are done. 1,500 of them, stacked and crated and ready to fly. I round up the team. I tell them we are reorganizing into 3 squads. Hyung-woong takes the lead on his vehicle and gets 2 more bodies thrown in with him, with 300 Molotov cocktails listed on the trading board so they can pull them down as needed. Hyung-woong is the main launch line, fighting on the move, taking orders to fire. He nods without theater. He has already tested the catapult himself. Yuk-chan can handle the loader station. Im-yu gets her own vehicle with 1 assistant. The last vehicle goes to the man we picked up earlier, the one with no special talent but a working pair of hands. He gets one of the women as a launcher, and another as a hauler. That vehicle is the old, weak, sick, and disabled squad by every metric. I'm going to ride with them because if anyone is going to need on-the-spot babysitting, it will be that team, and because the Im-yu vehicle and the Hyung-woong vehicle do not need me hovering. The 4th crate of Molotov cocktails, the spare 300, I keep for myself, to list or drop as traps or to delist mid-fight. I tell them we are not driving straight at the goblin tribe. We are going to find a smaller pocket of goblins somewhere away from the heart of the tribe and run the drill there first. Then I haul out the AK-47 rifles and hand one to every member of the team. I'm done being stingy. The processing room kept stamping them out while I was working, and at this point, hoarding the rifles is just delaying the moment when they start paying for themselves. As each AK-47 lands in someone's hand, faces light up the same way. Men, women, slaves, survivors, every one of them looks at the weapon like it is a small god. In an environment like this, no one dislikes firepower. That kind of joy is the cleanest emotion in the apocalypse. Im-yu speaks up. On the way back, she passed a mining pit with more than 100 goblins working it, plus roughly the same number of slaves, and the place is not light on goblin attention. She suggests hitting the mining pit first. Over 100 goblins, plus over 100 slaves who may or may not flip to our side, is a real fight, but worst case we can run. I nod. Im-yu leads. Considering the size of the armored rig and the obvious frailty of the 3rd squad's vehicle, I put the armored rig back on the trading board for now and climb into the 3rd vehicle myself. The cabin is 1 male slave at the catapult, 1 female slave hauling cocktails up from below, and 1 female survivor at the wheel. I learn their names while we ride. The man is Huang Peng. The woman beside him is Huang Ryung. The driver is Jung Yimin. Jung Yimin handles the wheel. Huang Peng holds the catapult on the modified frame, ready to fire whatever I push up through the sunroof. Huang Ryung shuttles cocktails from the back to him. I tell them to relax and follow the lead vehicle, that this is not a frontal assault on a tribe, that there is no Tier 3 Goblin King at the mining pit, and the danger is inside acceptable margins. I'm mostly talking at Jung Yimin because if she clips a tree at speed, we are out of the operation before it starts. I briefly considered just calling the armored rig back and putting them all in it. I shelved the thought. Tier 2 Goblins, Alaska 47s. 3 catapults, the whole convoy armed. The math is fine. 3 vehicles weave up through the dense forest under Im-yu's lead. The Wind Whisper talent threads us clean through. No encounters, no incidents. The goblins, if they even know we exist, do not consider us a problem worth waking up for. They may not even know yet. The scenery thins, becomes hillside, becomes the bare slopes of a working mine with the trees clear-cut into stumps. We climb a switchback that the armored rig would have ground to a halt on, and stop at a ridge that overlooks the mining pit from above. The road below is narrow enough that I would have had to roll the rig back down to avoid wedging it. Good call to leave it stored. Im-yu tells me the mining pit is below. Goblins and other races. Roughly 300 total, half goblins and half slaves. The slaves mostly human, but with a few species she does not recognize. She delivers the numbers like she is reading off a scoreboard. I climb out and look. The mining pit is a disgrace by any standard. Filth, scattered tools, half-collapsed lean-tos, no concept of hygiene. If a slave gets worked to death, they get rolled into the nearest hole. The goblins' own resting area is a row of wooden shacks shoulder to shoulder, and Im-yu tells me half the goblins are sleeping inside right now. About 30 are down in the mine tunnels overseeing the diggers, and another dozen or so are loafing in the open between the shacks and the entrance. I tell the team that the shacks are the primary target. The catapults open the engagement by setting the entire row on fire. The AK-47s drop any goblin that staggers out, and the slaves inside the tunnels get to live as long as they do not interfere. Hyung-woong hesitates before asking what we do about the slaves. I tell him that if they pose no threat, we leave them. We may need them later. If they pose a threat, we eliminate them and we keep them away from the vehicles. I'm willing to liberate fellow humans. Goblin slaves should be delighted to switch sides. The math is straightforward. On my mark, 3 catapults launch in unison. Bottle after bottle of Molotov cocktail arcs out over the lip of the ridge and crashes down across the shack roofs. I throw the ignition bottle myself, lit and arcing through the smoke trail. Fire spreads across the shacks in a single breath. Universal fuel and dry wood do what they do. The goblins inside come awake to a wall of heat, and the heat does not give them time to plan an exit. The catapults keep feeding bottles into the burn, splashing fresh fuel onto anything still in motion. Almost every goblin in those shacks ends up wearing fire. Universal fuel does not come off once it touches you. The smaller goblins drop quickly, fail for a beat, and leave behind a material box. The large goblins roll on the ground long enough that a few of them actually put themselves out, but the ones who survive are blind in one eye or half-skinned by the heat, useless in the fight that follows. MU's count puts 50 to 60 goblins in the shacks. About 10 make it out the doors. Fewer than that survive the AK-47s once they clear the firelight. I have been firing my own rifle the whole time at the dozen loiterers in the open yard. Heads, throats, center mass. With the initiative on my side and firearms in our hands, the goblins are not so much fighting back as failing to die fast enough. Material boxes pop into the air at irregular intervals, and I keep grinning. I tell the rest of the team to start shooting too, to get used to the rifles. They open up. Some of the rounds wander wildly, but 100 rounds in the air find something eventually, and the noise alone draws goblin scouts out of the tunnel mouths to investigate, which puts more heads on the scoreboard. NU reports that there are about 20 goblins left, and that they have hidden inside the tunnels. She adds that the slaves inside have started a fight of their own. She asks if we should move down. I tell her to drive the 3rd squad's vehicle down to explain the situation, get the slaves to evacuate, and if possible drag any cornered goblins out with them. I keep my own gaze on Huang Peng. The order lands on his face like a slap. He just made it onto a survivor team. He knows his contribution is small compared to the women, and he is the obvious candidate to play go-between because he still wears the slave number stamp on his clothes. He nods. He goes. The vehicle rolls down toward the pit, and I keep the rest of the convoy ready at the ridge. Huang Peng approaches the tunnel mouths and shouts toward them. It takes only a few seconds before figures appear, hesitating, peering out. They see the slave brand on Huang Peng's clothes, and that alone shifts the entire room. They duck back inside, the news travels, and within a minute humans are spilling out of the tunnels in groups, dragging half-beaten goblins behind them as offerings. The roles have completely flipped. Being a slave to goblins offers no good treatment. The ones who have been in the pit recently are merely thin. The ones who have been in long are skin over bone, eyes empty, with strange wooden shackles locked around their ankles. Most of them are operating on the last few % of a human life. The ones who still have fight in them are dragging goblin overseers along behind them by the wrist, and even half-beaten, the goblins are still struggling and snarling trying to get loose. Yesterday these goblins were the ones doing the beating. Today they are barter goods. When the goblins are pushed in front of me, I do not stand on ceremony. I order them all killed on the spot. The slaves carry it out. The crowd watches me do it without flinching, and the temperature of their hope drops a few degrees. They stand a little straighter, a little more carefully, in case I get carried away with the killing, and decide to clean the slate. I have no intention of touching them. I'm satisfied with the operation. The slaves' cooperation made it cleaner than it had any right to be. There are still material boxes scattered across the burn site that nobody has collected, because the fire has not died down. My gaze finds the cluster of slaves huddled together at the edge of the pit. The man at the front is sturdier than the others, ordinary in face but unbowed in posture. He steps forward when he sees me looking and speaks before I have to. He asks if I am here to save them. I take a beat. Behind that man, every face is tilted up to mine the way faces tilt up when the sun comes out for the first time in a month. Saving them is going to be expensive. I do not have enough vehicles. I do not know how to move 100+ broken humans through a black fog event. I'm not even sure the geography of what we are walking into. I tell him that I suppose I am. The crowd makes a sound that is half a gasp and half a sob. People who have stopped believing anything will be alright are not graceful when they are proven wrong. Some of them start murmuring, some of them start crying, some of them just stare. There are people in this group who were taken in raids, and people in this group who were sold by their own neighbors. They have been beaten down past the threshold, where the brain forms hope easily. I fire a single AK-47 round into the air to cut through the noise. Every face snaps back to mine. I tell them that being rescued does not mean being carried. I tell them flat that I cannot take all of them with me. The reaction comes in waves, some of them collapsing back into the despair they came in with, some of them nodding as if they had already guessed. There is no complaining, no cursing. They have used up their reserve of complaint. I lay out the plan. We liberate the slaves at this site. We wipe out the goblin tribe in this region. After that, the survivors among them can claim this territory and build a tribe of their own here. It's a clean exchange. They get a path forward, I get a forward operating base of grateful humans behind me, and the goblin tribe gets wiped off the map. Win all around. Voices come back at me. How many goblins are nearby? The leader does not know. Someone has heard there are several thousand. Someone has heard 10,000. Someone has heard about a goblin king. Voices are climbing into despair again. This is suicide, my lord. I tell them the choice is theirs. Fight for their lives or run. They can pick. I'm not in the business of inciting anyone, and I am not selling anything. I will save them if they want it. If they do not, I leave. The leader of the group says he is willing. Then the man behind him says he is willing. Then the third voice, with a different kind of edge, says you only die once, anything is better than this. A handful of stubborn no-votes hold out at the back. Nobody bothers to argue with them. Most of them are in. I nod. The Molotov cocktail count is about to expand. I ask about the material boxes. I ask about the slaves of other races. The leader tells me the alien slaves are still inside one of the mine tunnels, that they killed several goblin overseers in the chaos, and that one of them poked its head out, saw the situation and went back inside. The alien slaves did not come out with the humans, and from the way the leader's mouth shapes the next sentence, I already know what is coming. He tells me the alien slaves are not good people either. Some of them have killed humans during their time in the pit. The racial line in this world has been drawn in blood. Even among slaves, the hatred does not fade. I file the information. I tell him to prove themselves by going in and wiping the aliens out. Since the aliens did not come out when the door was open, they do not need to come out at all. Material boxes will drop either way. I'm not going to leave loot on the table for sentiment. The leader steps forward. His name is Gok Kwang Gong, and he hears the order with something close to relief. He rallies the other slaves on the spot. Before they go, I take a small pile of black iron crossbows out of inventory and hand them out. I have already phased these crossbows out of my own loadout, and the processing room can stamp out more whenever I want. They cost me nothing. Gok Kwang Gong thanks me as if I gave him a kingdom. The crossbows put a real weapon in their hands, which lowers the casualty rate against the alien slaves to almost nothing. Considering they were about to charge with pickaxes and goblin leftovers, I can call this generosity at no margin to me. I tell them to bring out any material boxes they find inside. Gok Kwang Gong and his crew disappear into the tunnel mouths. Within minutes, I hear the unmistakable noise of close quarters fighting deep in the rock. Crossbow strings, screams, the kind of yelling that men do when they finally get to be the ones holding the weapon. The fight ends faster than I expected. Numbers on their side, the tunnel layout in their favor, and crossbows tip it cleanly. No deaths among the humans, a few injuries. They drag the bodies out, along with whatever material boxes drop. While they handle the tunnels, MU and the rest of my crew sweep the open ground for the burn site loot, rifles up, scanning. They behave as if nothing unusual is happening, which is the right posture. I watch the pile of material boxes grow and I cannot stop smiling. 100+ goblins drops nearly 100 boxes. That haul alone is about to exceed everything I have collected on the road so far. Most are black iron level. A handful are rock rank or bronze level. The math is now firmly settled in my head. From this point on, greed gets used only on bronze level and above. Black iron level joins rock rank in the trash bin of obsolete loot. MU calls me over with a different tone in her voice. She has dug a material box out of the burned down shack rubble that glows silver. Silver level. I let the smile widen. This is the day the math changes. Gok Kwang Gang's crew comes back out of the tunnels carrying their own silver level material box. Plus 20+ goblins gave me one silver level box. The smaller pack of alien slaves in the tunnels gave me a second. Wiping out the aliens was the right call. I get my first good look at the alien races they killed. There are gnome-like creatures. Short and ugly, yellow-skinned and thickly furred. Technically a gnome race per the loot panel naming. There are orcs, or more precisely kobolds by panel classification. The silver level box dropped off a kobold. The tier ceiling here matches what I expected, tier 2 on the strongest individual. Gok Kwang Gong's crew is no longer the cowering huddle I greeted at the pit edge. They have seen blood today. They stand differently, but their bodies are still wrecked, still operating on starvation and dehydration, and I can see it in the way they sway as they walk over. I open my inventory and dump a batch of food in front of them, enough for 100+ people to actually eat. I throw in a few bottles of healing potion, diluted into a shared drink for the worst injuries. I'm not stingy. The 2 silver level boxes alone have made the whole operation pay for itself, and there is still half a day ahead of us. Voices rise around the pile, thanking me, swearing oaths I do not need. A man named Wang Daeho says he will fight wherever I point him. The crowd echoes him. I wave them down and tell them to rest. I have not let the surprise go to my head, because there is still a much larger fortune ahead of us, and the day is not over. While the slaves eat, I think about how to move them later. My fleet is no longer enough. I sold off too many spare vehicles in my hurry to build leverage on the trading boards. If I had kept even 2, the transfer math would be solved already. I call MU over and ask her how far the next goblin gathering site is. She tells me that if we drive, it is reachable in a couple of hours. If we walk, the slaves will not arrive before nightfall, and many of them will not arrive at all. She uses the word climbing more than walking. I'm helpless about it. The slaves are willing, but they have no fuel in them. I'm running out of auctions that do not involve me chauffeuring people in shifts. She mentions casually that the goblins haul ore around here somehow, and that whatever they use to drag the ore can probably drag people too. That is a good thought. I call Gok Kwangong back over mid-meal. The man scrambles like an excited dog and arrives still chewing. I ask him about goblin transport. He scans the surrounding clutter, points to a corner of the pit, and tells me the goblins have large flatbed carts with massive wheels that can hold serious weight. They are normally pulled by livestock, which the goblins do not have here. He offers to lead me to them. I follow. The carts come out of the rear caves and out of half-buried corners across the pit. Big, brutal wooden flatbeds with metal axles. The kind of thing that looks like a dock cart bred with a wagon. I test one. It rolls. It will hold a dozen plus people without strain. There are 20 or 30 of them. Filthy but structurally fine. The slaves are not in better condition themselves. The carts are fine. Gok Kwangong asks me if they are useful. I tell him they are. I have Mu drive a vehicle up to a part, rig a tow rope, and run a lap around the pit at low speed, with the cart bouncing behind. People climb on. By the time she has dragged 15 of them around the perimeter 3 or 4 times without incident, the answer is in. The vehicle can pull the cart. We're a freight company now. The math gets a little easier. Not many vehicles, sure, but a couple of trips moves 100 plus people instead of a leg slov that would arrive a corpse. With the transport question handled, I ordered the Molotov cocktail line restarted. The first fight burned through dozens of cocktails, which is a small number but not a trivial one, and I want a reserve. I send a few people out to scout the perimeter, including Mu. If the goblin tribe has noticed the smoke and is sending a column over, I want to know first. I ping Captain M. Pajun and ask for 2,000 more glass bottles. He has stock. I let him know I would also borrow or rent 2 vehicles for the next few hours, if he has spares, but he turns me down flat. His own rotten corpse hunts are still running, and his fleet is locked in. I sold mine too early. The trading board has nothing interesting on it. I close the panel. I hand the cocktail production over to Gok Kwanggang. I tell him to fill as many as he can, and to quietly pick out a handful of bodies with stamina and nerve who can move with us when we go for the next site. I drop a hint on the side, and anyone who performs in the next operation will be considered for a spot in the convoy when I roll out for real. I did not plan to recruit anyone today, but the math has shifted. Some of these people had real strength before the slavery wrecked them. There are even Tier 2 existences among them. A few warm bodies in my back ranks would not hurt. Gok Kwangong lights up at the carrot, hands trembling. I wave him off. I'm going to dangle him for now. Sycophants are annoying when they belong to someone else and useful when they belong to you. I sit down with the loot pile while he organizes the cocktail line. My sanity has recovered a bit and the haul is large. I plan to open everything below black iron level cold, then run the 4 high-value boxes 2 silver level and 2 bronze level, through greed. If something Goblin King-shaped falls out, even better. If not, no loss. I summon the armored raid back to where I am sitting. The whole pit's eyes track it. Nobody approaches, nobody asks. A few of the more capable slaves trade glances with each other, and combined with whatever hints Gok Kwangong has been dropping, I can see anticipation behind their eyes. They have figured out that staying here and waiting for the next goblin patrol is a worse bet than following the survivor with the rolling fortress. There is no safe place in this world right now. There is only the safer option. I ignore them and start opening boxes. White light pops, materials drop, and I sort by category into the rig. The lower value stuff goes onto the trading board as inventory I can pull on demand. That is how I run inventory now. The trading board is a portable storage closet. Food, medicine, weapons all listed but never actually traded. Iron blocks, copper blocks, electronic components go straight into the processing room. Trees outside the rig start coming down for wood. Ores from the mine get loaded for refinement. The pit empties faster than the slaves can finish their meal. 100+ material boxes is enough that the novelty wears off. I'm flipping them now like a casino dealer flipping cards. The good blueprints and skill books and the rare potions get sorted to the front of the rig. Everything else gets distributed to inventory or the trading board. After this haul, every one of my core attributes is going to be sitting at 30. If the silver and bronze level boxes drop advancement items, I become a tier 2 existence today. 3rd day in this world, and I'm already crossing the tier 2 threshold. That is fast even for someone who is gaming the system on purpose. I crack open a tube of black iron level enhancement potion just to wet my throat while I work. I mutter at the universe that I will trade the single status of all goblins in the world for the next 100 years for one top-tier item in this run, and then I crack the second bottle of enhancement potion for emphasis. I do not even care which attribute the bonus lands on. I rub my hands together, pray for 1 beat, and crack the 4 headline boxes. The 2 silver level boxes opened into greed doubled yields. From the first I get a low-level enhancement potion, a talent awakening potion, a food supply pack, 100 crystals, a metal supply pack, 100 silver. The greed effect doubles it with a vehicle upgrade and modification blueprint named Hive Surveillance, a metal supply pack, a food supply pack, a moon shadow ring at silver level, 100 crystals, 100 gold. The 2 bronze level boxes drop another low-level enhancement potion, 40 units of universal fuel, 50 iron blocks, 50 crystals, 30 rice, and a pair of light feather gloves. Greed doubles into light feather shoes, another 30 units of universal fuel, 60 copper blocks, 50 crystals, 30 electronic components, and an ice arrow skill book at bronze level. I store the materials and the food on autopilot. I have done this dance enough times that the sorting is muscle memory. My attention locks on the potions. The Talent Awakening potion is the same one I used to break through to Tier 1 and to evolve Greed. The panel reads that for an unawakened talent it guarantees awakening, that below the second order it guarantees breaking the class bottleneck, that it randomly increases attribute values by 5 to 10, and that for an already awakened talent it has a probability of raising the talent's level and a probability of generating a dual talent. The bottleneck guarantee alone is the win. I do not have to gamble low-level enhancement potions on a probability anymore. The silver-level low-level enhancement potion is a different reading. The panel says it randomly enhances attributes by 8 to 15 points, with a probability of helping me break the class ceiling. Attribute cap 100. Just these two potions justify the 2 silver-level boxes by themselves. I checked the ring. The Moon Shadow Ring at silver level grants agility plus 8, spirit plus 5, a 3x3x3 storage space, and the Shadow Veil spell powered by source energy. Effect halved if my attribute cap exceeds 120, and the Moon Shadow set unlocks additional buffs. I slide the ring on. The Shadow Veil ability filters into my head, and I'm pleased to find it is not just a personal stealth tool. With enough source energy, I can extend the cloak across nearby people and objects too. The storage compartment alone is a gift. I have wanted a real storage slot since day one. I can hide my private stash in it, plus a spare sidearm or 2 for when something goes sideways. The Hive surveillance blueprint is the centerpiece. The name tells me 90%. It is an upgrade to the rig's monitoring stack that adds worker bee drones for scouting that can also carry ammunition and engage targets in flight. And the spec sheet calls a second class of drone a guard bee, which is smaller and short range but designed for self-destruction. This thing is a drone factory. I'm smiling at the spec sheet. With this, I have an answer for almost any tactical problem in the next operation, including the Goblin King. The 2 bronze level boxes have no real curveballs in them, but they finish the light feather leather armor set with the shoes and gloves I have been chasing. I put both on. Strength and agility each tick up a few more points, and the completed set bonus adds another 10 to agility. My panel rewrites itself. I read the new lines off as a list. Strength 30 plus 3 plus 11. Current limit 30. Agility 30 plus 3 plus 37. Constitution 30 plus 3 plus 37. Spirit 30 plus 9 plus 10. The low-level enhancement potion's bottleneck break probability is, in practice, low. I had been holding out hope. I stopped holding out hope and put it back on the shelf. The silver-level potions are next. I do not save them. I drink the Talent Awakening potion straight, hoping to see Greed level up, or a dual talent appear, but the dice come up cold. No talent shift, just plus 7 across attributes. I keep going. The silver-level, low-level enhancement potion goes down right after. I sit in the rig for half an hour while the medicinal effects digest, and the attribute panel keeps shifting under my eyes. By the time it settles, my numbers read Strength 34 plus 3 plus 11, with a new limit of 60, Agility 35 plus 3 plus 37, Constitution 36 plus 3 plus 0, Spirit 33 plus 9 plus 10. I'm a second-order transcendent now. Cap raised to 60, which feels suddenly within reach. I draw the light feather dagger and turn it through the light just to feel the weight. Killing and arson really do bring wealth. Killing the alien slaves really did make me stronger. For half a beat, I think that with these attributes, I do not even need to lean on firearms. The thought lasts exactly 2 seconds before I shoot it down. Without a gun, how am I going to become a grandmaster? I'm not going to get arrogant. The goblin mages and the shadow demon wolf are still out there. Humans should honestly use technology. The dagger goes back into its sheath. The bronze level box also dropped an ice arrow skill book, but I do not read it now. I have it on the shelf for when I need it. The headline of this haul is Hive Surveillance. I head into the rig's carriage with the blueprint in hand. The materials it requires are mundane, just a heap of electronic components, which is no problem at all. I have been hoarding them out of every box. If anyone has more supplies in their inventory right now than I do, it is Captain M. Pagan and his crew, and I'm not even sure they have me beat. Inside the carriage, I gather the components, find an empty room, and slap the blueprint against the pile. The blueprint erupts into white light, the materials get pulled in, and what coalesces in the corner of the room is a hive-like structure that looks like a sci-fi beehive welded to the ceiling. It takes most of one corner of the room. Sentry number 1 pipes up. New function detected. Hive surveillance. The hive can produce worker bees for combat and scouting. Each worker bee can carry 10 rounds of ammunition. The hive can produce guard bees, range 1 kilometer from the hive, with self-destruction. Each guard bee has a 3-meter blast radius. The hive surveillance includes infrared detection and can spot stealth units. Current worker bee inventory is 1,000. Maximum 1,000. Regeneration 100 per hour when below cap. Current guard bee inventory is 100, maximum 100. Regeneration 10 per hour when below cap. There is no queen bee. The rig itself is the queen. I read through the abilities and try not to laugh out loud. Each worker bee individually is weak, but 1,000 worker bees each carrying 10 rounds is a different kind of math. The guard bees in chain self-destruction would chew up even a tier 3 transcendent if the geometry is right. The odds against the so-called tier 3 goblin king just shifted again. I pull up the spec on the bees themselves. A worker bee looks like a flying pistol magazine, slightly thicker, yellow with black panels and a small ejection port at the tail. The caliber is larger than I expected, north of 13 millimeters, effectively a flying autocannon round. Is this black technology? I'm having fun. A guard bee is heavier than a worker bee, slower in flight, but it has a short burst mode that briefly outpaces the worker bee at the cost of being even harder to recover. After a burst, the guard bee either limps home or detonates where it is. The proper name for the guard bee is suicide bee, but I will keep the polite label. I do not waste time on the decision. From the end of the mining pit fight to the close of the loot run, about an hour has passed. If I drag my feet any further, the assault rolls into deep night and we lose the protection buff after noon tomorrow. I cannot afford to give up tomorrow morning's window. The cocktail line of the pit has already filled 2,000 bottles, more than enough. I climb down out of the rig. Gok Kwangdong sees me coming and trots over with the same flattering smile he has worn all afternoon. He asks if we are moving out. I tell him yes, but that some of his people are staying behind. I ask if he found the volunteers I asked for. He nods rapidly and tells me 13. All tier 1 or tier 2, all with nerve. He himself is tier 1 but not far from tier 2. He would have made it on his own timeline if he had not been captured. For slaves like him, who never had the survivor system feeding them potions and material boxes, advancement is a slow climb. Most of them progress on cultivation and bought potions, and the potions are monopolized by people in power. That single mechanic is why survivor status sits so high in the social order. A breakthrough in 2 days the way I did it is rare even for survivors. The bulk of my material boxes are because of greed. Captain Im Pijun's side, I would not be surprised if they only have 1 or 2 tier 1s by now. I tell Gok Kwangdong to gather the 13 and prepare to move. The remaining slaves stay here and prepare defenses, and I am leaving them weapons and Molotov cocktails so that other goblin scouts who wander into the area get a warm reception. I do not want anyone here making trouble or running off in the time it takes me to clear the next site, and if things go well I might rescue more people on the next sweep who will land here too. Gok Kwangdong says he will arrange it, and I send him off. I round on Mu and the rest of the team next. I tell them the fight was clean, but that this was the start, that the real fights are ahead, and that I'm distributing rewards now as I promised. Each of them gets a black iron level enhancement potion. Hyungwoo gets 2, Mu gets 3. I have plenty of black iron level potions in stock. The low level enhancement potion is no longer useful to me personally, and the goodwill is cheap at this exchange rate. There are skill books and pieces of equipment I do not use, and I let them each pick one. Their faces do what faces do when reward beats expectation. Some of them eye Mu with envy, but nobody speaks. Mu has been leading the convoy and reads as a second in command, and her talent is undeniable. Hyungwoo does not care about ranking, as long as he gets something. The low-level enhancement potion is wasted on him at his current tier. Yuk Cheon and his sister actually benefit from theirs. After the distribution, I add one line. If they want more in the future, they perform for it. Anyone who wants to stay in the convoy needs to demonstrate the corresponding ability. Otherwise, I'm not the kind of captain who keeps freeloaders. The line lands cleanly. No complaints. Eyes brighten. The flatbed carts get rigged behind the vehicles. 3 or 4 people per cart. Eyes burning. Postures straight. The convoy looks scrappy, but every person on it has Molotov cocktails strapped to their belt and a black iron crossbow in their hand. If something gets close, they can fight. We roll out and nothing intercepts us. The goblins really are not paying attention, or they have grown complacent in the days since the black fog dropped. Even the column of black smoke rising from the mining pit reads to them as weather. We take a route Mu picked for cover and screen ourselves directly into the second target. The second site is not a roaming goblin squad. It is a plantation. The slaves here work strange plots of soil, and the air is foul, a pungent stink that makes the throat close on its own. Purple-green vines climb dwarf trees and bear weirdly shaped fruit. From a distance, I watch slaves walk in and stagger out vomiting. The goblins, on the other hand, appear to enjoy the smell. Once Mu's count comes back, the assault math is short. 30-something goblins, 30-something slaves. No tier 2 among the goblins. I do not even have to fire much this time. I hold the AK-47 at the rear and provide covering fire that turns out not to be needed. Mu's squad and Hyungwoo's squad are warmed up. The newly rotated dozen-plus slaves from the pit and Gok Kwangdong's crew throw cocktails like men paying off a debt. Then they pick up the black iron crossbows and unload at the goblins. Their accuracy is forgivable. Their spirit is not in question. By the time my crew with AK-47s starts firing in controlled bursts, the fight is already over. This is the attitude I have been looking for. The goblin count is in the 30s and yields about 20 material boxes. Most are black iron level, with only a couple bronze level, no silver. Luck is not as kind as the mining pit. There are a few pieces of equipment, black iron and bronze level. I open the lower tier boxes on the spot, toss the materials in the higher tier boxes into the armored rig, and store the rig. The 30-plus liberated slaves gather under Gok Gang's organization. They are pale, gaunt, swaying, half of them looking like they will collapse if a breeze hits them. But there is light in their eyes. The big promises Gok Gang has been feeding them have done their work. They thank me. They call me sir. They bow. I open my mouth and find that I do not know what to say. These people are too far gone to be a combat asset. They have been here too long. Whatever they were before the goblins took them is buried under months of hunger. I tell them I will give them food, that they will stay here for now. Filling their stomachs is the immediate problem. I dump a batch of rations in front of them, enough that 30 people can actually eat to satiety. Their eyes light up at the sight of supplies appearing out of nowhere, and I wave them in and let them eat as much as they can hold. Gok Gang and his crew, who only just stopped being starving themselves, watch the spread and swallow hard despite already being full. Hunger leaves marks that take longer than one meal to fade. While the slaves eat, I take a closer look at the plantation. The purple-green vines wrap around the small trees and bear those misshapen fruit. I step closer once and step right back, gagging. I cover my nose and ask what these things are and what the goblins want with them. The reasonable hypothesis is poison. One of the more knowledgeable slaves stands up and answers. It is songvine. The goblin race loves to eat it. To other races it is toxic, but to goblins it is a tonic, and chronic consumption strengthens their bloodline, so it is poison. The math comes out the same. The plantation looks worthless next to the mining pit, which I will be sending crews back to for the metal ore. I'm about to tell the staying behind crew to torch the songvine and be done with it. Then a thought crosses me. Even garbage can be repurposed. If I cannot use the songvine, I can probably weaponize it as a problem for someone else. I tell the team to collect the plants. I store a batch in the rig. Hoard a little of everything is a reasonable rule of thumb at this point. I do not waste more time at the plantation. I take MU and the squad and begin sweeping the territory in earnest, which confirms that this entire stretch of forest is goblin country. The pockets of goblin activity are everywhere. The forest creatures I would have expected to see in this kind of environment are nearly absent, and the ones that do appear look domesticated, raised for goblin use. After sweeping several patrol squads in succession, the convoy picks up a special item: cow horses. Goblin domesticated beasts of burden, kept to pull the flatbed carts. Whether the goblins bred them or traded for them from another race is anyone's guess. The mining pit slaves recognize them as the cart pullers. They are shaped like a cross between cows and horses, larger than a compact car with docile temperaments. After the goblins handling them are dead, I tug on the reins of one. It moves. I tug again. It stops. A flick of the whip and it picks up speed. I grab a handful of fodder and shove it into the big mouth of one of the cow horses. The tongue rolls up, sucks in the fodder, and the cow horse chews placidly while chirping affectionately at me between bites. Whoever feeds them is mother, apparently. I ask whether the cow horses are emergency rations, or omnivorous. I watch the herd graze and run the math. They have a use, not as freight, because I am about to fight the goblin tribe, and a slow caravan of cow horses is a liability. They might be food. They might get left here for the staying crew. After picking the plantation clean of anything I care about, I keep sweeping. The harvest count keeps climbing. By now I have collected over 100 material boxes, over 20 bronze level, 3 silver level. The thrill of clearing monster patrols and collecting loot is intoxicating, and I almost forget to stop. If I add the mining pits count, I have killed close to 300 goblins today. That has to qualify as a small tragedy by any reasonable definition. MU pulls up next to me with a different tone in her voice. She tells me we should rest. Not us, she clarifies. Them. I look at Gok Gang's crew. They have been the main throwing force the whole day. My own team has rifles and catapults and can cycle out of the line to recover. Gok Gang's people have been on their feet the whole time, throwing cocktails arm deep and squeezing crossbow strings in shifts. Their energy is the most depleted thing on the convoy. They are also still wounded from a captivity that ended this morning. One of them speaks up from the back. He says they can keep going. He says not to worry about them. The hatred for the goblins is bone deep on that side of the camp. They would turn themselves into killing machines and walk straight to the tribe's capital if their bodies would carry them. I shake my head. I'm not the kind of captain who pushes people past their reserves. Combat is not play. Smooth day or not, exhausted muscles get people killed. In the moment a real surprise arrives. MU adds that there are no more goblin outposts nearby in this direction. The next step in this direction is the goblin tribe itself, the main settlement. The other direction is a bypass around it. She also tells me that while I was loot sorting, she stepped out to scout and caught sight of a few figures whose movements read like goblin scouts. They retreated quickly and stayed out of view. Her read is that the tribe has noticed something is off. I'm not surprised. If the tribe had not noticed yet, I would have been worried about their intelligence. I tell her to pull back a step. She asks how far. She points out that if we retreat too deep, by the time we want to move on the tribe, full night will be on us. If we stay too close, the goblins might come knocking before we are ready. I tell her to let it get dark. The darkness might actually favor us. Since arriving in this world, I have not seen anything specifically tied to nightfall, even though the in-game text keeps gesturing at the dangers of the dark and the black fog. The dangers are not currently present. As long as we are back on the road by noon tomorrow, before the protection buff expires, we are fine. MU hears the decision and chooses not to push back, even though I can see her have a private second thought about it. She marshals the crew back a half-hour's distance from the goblin tribe, close enough that we can strike at speed, far enough that we are not on top of any patrols. I find Hyungwoong and Go Kwanggang and tell them to walk the rescued slave camp through a voluntary sign-up. Anyone willing to join the night raid gets folded into a squad. Anyone who is not willing stays put and does not get forced. The flatbed carts and the cow horses can be used as part of the assault, not for transport. I tell them to set up perimeter guards too, with cocktails ready, and to greet any inbound goblin column with fire. While the team rests, I look at the 100+ slaves we have rescued, plus the herd of cow horses, and the next piece of the plan slots in. Outside of the slaves still bedded down at the mining pit in the plantation, everyone is here. I have figured out a use for the cow horses. I'm going to run a fire cattle camp charge. Night helps us as much as it helps the goblins, but if we use the dark on offense first, we control the rhythm. A herd of cow horses sent charging into the goblin tribe's heart, with Molotov cocktails strapped to their flanks, cocktails arcing in from the catapults on every side, and AK-47 gunfire layering on top. I do not believe the goblin tribe holds together under that. Loose individual goblins are small wild monsters in my book, easy to mop up. The headline opponent is still the Goblin King. I have to remove that one personally, or at least make sure he goes down in the same chaos. Whatever ability he has that keeps a tribe of thousands marching in step, I do not want to give him time to use it. Hyungwoong and Gok Kwang-go to pick volunteers. The sign-up causes the expected little stir, but plenty of bodies sign up. Hatred for the goblins is doing the recruiting for me. While the camp organizes, I find Huang Peng and Mu. I tell them I plan to attack the goblin tribe tonight. The objective is to set the whole tribe on fire. Mu commands the assault line. Huang Peng and his crew assist Mu and fill any gaps the operation throws up. I'm spelling it out so Mu is ready and so Huang Peng knows he is a brick to be set wherever needed. Mu nods. She was already braced for it. Huang Peng sees it as a safer assignment than the alternatives and has no objection. The plan is locked. Everyone in camp has a job. I get to my own piece of the prep. I summon the armored rig and this time I do not put it away. I release the worker bees, fan them out, and bring the guard bees online and waiting. If the goblins decide to move first, I want eyes out in time to see them coming. A night raid on the goblin tribe is the offensive play. If the Goblin King comes out of the tribe on his own, the rig becomes a defense. With the armored vehicle as the centerpiece weapon, I do not believe I cannot kill this so-called Goblin King. As long as Tier 3 does not undergo some qualitative leap that puts him dozens of times above Tier 2, I trust the machine gun and the guard bees. Beyond that, worst case we run. Worst case we drive over them. If they have anything to say, they can say it to the armored vehicle. The worker bee lifts off the armored vehicle with a low hum, and I tell Sentry 1 to warn me the instant it spots any goblins closing in. Sentry 1 takes the order without a word wasted, the way it always does. While it watches, I pull out the material boxes I've been hoarding, and I leave the bronze level ones alone for now, because the 3 silver level boxes are the ones I actually care about tonight. I choose to crack all 3 at once. The panel tallies it up in a rush of white light, a silver enhancement potion, a pair of food supply packs, 100 crystals, 2 metal supply packs, 100 gold, a vehicle upgrade blueprint stamped artillery armament, and 100 units of universal fuel. Then my talent greed kicks in on top, spending my sanity to sweeten the pot. It coughs up a water storage device modification, another metal supply pack and food supply pack, 200 more crystals, 200 more universal fuel, another 100 gold, and a silver level skill upgrade. I've gotten so used to piling up supplies that would make anyone else weep with envy that I barely blink. I down the enhancement potion first, then look at the rest. The real prize here is that artillery armament, because it bolts a whole new layer of firepower onto my armored vehicle. It works like the machine gun blueprint did, except this time it isn't a machine gun. It's a cannon, so I suppose this counts as a tank now, and a super tank at that. I glance at the other modification, the water storage device, which is fine but nothing to get excited about, and the skill upgrade is decent, but my attention stays locked on the cannon. The build materials aren't anything rare, so I'm up on my feet before I even finish thinking it over, impatient to see the thing installed. The machine gun ran 16.8 millimeters, so I want to know what this cannon is made of. A heap of materials gathers, dissolves into white light under the blueprint's effect, and wraps the whole vehicle. From inside, I can see the changes taking shape. A new firing station grafted onto the same port that used to house the machine gun. The barrel is enormous, and it swings in every direction without a single blind spot. The caliber is smaller than I pictured, 120mm shells, but it packs 500 rounds and reloads itself automatically. Jin Haichian, former delivery guy, a man with a cannon now. I worked the barrel around a little, itching to put a few rounds down range, but I talked myself out of it, because a couple of test shots would kick up a commotion I don't need. Everyone's cycling through their rest shifts, there's real work coming later, and I can't afford chaos. So I settled for the other blueprint instead, upgrading the interior water storage into partitioned tanks, fed by pipes and outlets and faucets, ready to use the moment the water's purified. This armored vehicle keeps drifting further from a war machine, and closer to a house, appliances, a power room, and now running water, a complete mobile residence. That leaves the skill upgrade scroll, and after a moment's hesitation, I feed it into my marksmanship, which evolves into Master Marksman at silver level. Honestly, I've unlocked plenty of skills by now, but I lean on firearms for almost everything, and the rest are just gravy. Maybe once I've cleared out the goblin tribe I can pour some effort into my own body, so I'm not left toothless the day guns stop being enough, or the day my own strength finally outpaces them. Right now I can steamroll anything with a rifle, but I know that won't last forever. Eventually something walks in that firearms can't touch, a creature built to shrug off physical damage, or some monstrous boss, and when it does I'd rather not be caught flat. The 3 silver boxes leave their mark on me too. My panel updates and my strength is pushed to 37 before the bonuses stack on top, sealing 60 for the moment. Agility sits at 38 with its own extra layered over it. Constitution has finally cracked 40 even stripped of equipment, and Spirit lands at 36 with 9 more piled above it. That Constitution number is the one that gets me. At this rate, Tier 3 isn't far off. I clench my fist and feel no discomfort at all, just raw power, the kind where I could drop a cow with one punch. My attributes are running several times an ordinary person's now, and when I remember that most people started this world with maybe 5 or 6 points to their name, it lands. I'm sitting at 7 or 8 times that. Even in the middle of resting, I keep crafting rifles, because there's a hard fight coming. The walkie-talkie crackles right on cue. It's mostly in-use voice telling me goblins are approaching and passing the same word to Woon-dae-gwang and the others, who are already braced for it. I get up and ask how many, calm about it, since I've been waiting on this for a while. She reports they're scattered, only 30 or so, most likely scouts or a vanguard. There's no urgency in her tone anymore. After the pile of goblins she's helped put down, these ones barely register as a threat, just meat walking itself to the grave. I give Woon-dae-gwang and the crew the go-ahead. As long as nothing special is mixed in, a handful of people with rifles can wipe 30 goblins without breaking a sweat. Woon-dae-gwang and his men have been holding their breath waiting for this, and the second I clear them they pull the coordinates from MU and move to flank. About 1 kilometer out from camp, 30-odd goblins are still poking their heads through the brush. When the first of them starts dropping, most of them are too dim to grasp what's happening, and they scatter in a panic, but there's no escape, and all 30 plus are left behind without a single one slipping away. Woon-dae-gwang confirms each corpse, calls it in, and hauls back the loot, all of it rock level and black iron level, pure cannon fodder. He figures they were sent to map out our position, the logic being that whichever squad never comes home marks the spot where the trouble is. I don't much care either way. If the other side wants to keep feeding me goblins, let them. And if it draws that Goblin King out into the open, all the better. Of course it doesn't play out that neatly. Wave after wave rolls in, and these ones aren't fodder anymore, with archers and goblin shamans folded into the mix. Most still get cut down before they're even in sight, and the few that reach us can't do any real damage. We aren't a scrappy dozen anymore either. Even the freed slaves, terrified of dying, don't dare sit still against goblins pressing in, and next to death, maybe staying a goblin slave feels like the greater shame. By the time the attacks finally break off, there are hundreds of goblin and slave corpses cooling in the woods. The goblins pull back, and given their nature, the fact that they retreated at all, only after losing that many of their own, is already a concession to the thousands of kin waiting behind them. Their dead run around 200, a real casualty toll, and another 300 bodies belong to the other races they threw at us. Humans most of all, spent purely as fodder. The ones who never raised a weapon I fold in for now, and the ones who attacked, I have put down on the spot. A perfectly good stretch of woodland is a corpse field now, thick with gunpowder and blood. The plants here will grow lush next year. These things are even easier to deal with than I figured. That Goblin King really is a coward, hiding behind his ranks instead of leading them in person. Looks like I'll have to carve my way to his front door before this so-called king bothers to show his face. I run the worker bee from inside the vehicle, watching the fight through its feed, and it's over before I even bother committing the bee to it. We take losses too, some from plain carelessness, some because the slaves are in such wretched shape. Over a dozen wounded, 11 dead, most of them swarmed under by goblins, a few of them killed by mistake by their own side. It's combat discipline that would make a dog shake its head. Really, it's 2 mobs of amateurs pecking at each other, and my side comes out on top for now on firepower alone. Watching them fight only makes me surer about the night raid, because once their morale breaks, killing these things is no harder than sticking pigs. I hand the follow-up care for the wounded to Gok Kwang and break out some healing potions and medicines. Anyone not killed outright won't be nursing anything too serious. The material boxes flow back to me too, and I'm so numb to them now that I just open every black iron and rock box on the spot. No sense wasting storage. I even crack a stack of carriage blueprints hoping for an upgrade blueprint that might push my freshly modified vehicle a rung higher. But bigger isn't always better, so I set those aside for later. The rest of the materials I hand out as rewards, food and supplies to whoever earned it, and whatever won't fit in the vehicle I dump onto the trading board. Anyone watching that board closely would notice one account listing and delisting a mountain of goods, over and over. This time I'm getting rich in one clean sweep. 2 new silver boxes have surfaced already, and I keep those, waiting on my talent to refresh. The camp settles into its own busy work, everyone with something to do, and after a short rest I walk the grounds myself, cataloging what supplies matter and which people are actually willing to fight. That's exactly when the trouble finds me. Somewhere in the camp a gathering has gone wrong. Screams tangling over each other, voices shrieking that the food is poisoned, demanding to know who did it, howling to kill the base slaves and the defectors. A group of newly rescued people had been savoring some rare decent food, celebrating their escape from the goblin tribe, when the ordinary rice porridge dropped a whole cluster of them dead, and some of the survivors snatched up weapons and started hacking at whoever stood nearby. The whole thing moves so fast no one gets time to react. Gok Kwangong finds the scene and his face goes black as a scorched pot. Blacker still when he clocks me standing off to the side watching. He's the one responsible for processing these slaves as they arrive, and the food that just killed them was prepared under him, and he'd only stepped away to check on the wounded before it all came apart. I don't stand on ceremony. I tell Gok Kwangong to take people and shut it down, and if the rioters won't drop their weapons, to kill them, and I tell everyone else to keep their distance and not to strike at anyone. I already have the AK-47 out of the storage ring, and I'm watching the other slaves for the same signs. If any of them start a riot of their own, I won't mind at all letting them eat a few rounds. I keep a handful alive only to understand the situation, because in my head these troublemakers are already condemned. They've poisoned people to death, and that's the end of the conversation. Is this an internal feud, some private grudge, or is it a goblin tactic? Given what people are capable of, I don't doubt for a second that slaves might butcher each other over old scores. Gok Kwangong takes the order and doesn't waste it on shouting. He points out a few men helping nearby and wades in with his weapon. A run of crossbow bolts strips the rioters of any fight, but the group that was rescued alongside them is nearly gone already. Most dead from the porridge, a few hacked down before the poison even took, along with some earlier rescued slaves who'd been pitching in. The rot traces cleanly to the batch we pulled out most recently. Even caught and bleeding, they keep raving like religious fanatics, spitting about the king in the black fog. Gok Kwangong grabs one by the collar and slaps him hard, cursing his mother and demanding to know if he's been a slave so long his brain rotted out. He has someone check whether the poisoned ones can be saved, but the man comes back shaking his head because whatever this poison is, it kills the moment it takes hold. That answer makes Gok Kwangong want to tear the fanatic in his grip apart, and he keeps swearing loud enough to drown out the nonsense still leaking from the man's mouth, mostly because he's terrified this whole mess just dinged his standing with me. The instant he senses me approaching, he reins it in and slides back into his fawning face. He tells me these ones seem crazy, maybe brainwashed, and that whatever king they keep chanting about, they're probably talking about the goblins. Anyone with working eyes can see it isn't normal, and it isn't just him either, because the others who suddenly turned killer all wear the same symptoms. So they have methods like this. I wonder for a beat whether those methods can reach through the protection buff. Most of my people are ordinary and can be attacked, and the survivors are just the few I've had from the start. So I'm genuinely curious whether the goblins could turn the slaves against us. But I let it drop. The buff wears off by noon tomorrow anyway, and after that it won't matter. I ask the man in front of me whether he's still conscious, whether he can talk at all. All I get back is that the rebels will die by the king's hand, that I should wait for the king's wrath, that the black fog descends and the king descends with it. Just fragments, muttered on a loop. As I figured, these ones are part of the black fog's handiwork, already whittled down into playthings for the goblin shaman. There's nothing left to talk to. I tell Gok Kwangong to finish them. Too many people are dead. These ones can't be kept, and I can't trust a word out of them. Chalk it up to their rotten luck. It's our first meeting. There's no bond between us, and my rule with these slaves is simple. Save them where I can, but never at the cost of my own neck. Gok Kwangong nods, eager to prove his worth, picks up his new AK-47, and clears the last few. They keep struggling even fully in the shaman's grip, shouting about the king and the rebels, and one by one he takes their lives. They're still human after all. Not a single material box drops. I watch the blood spread and the bodies pile without a flicker of disgust, because I went numb a long time ago. Never mind these slaves. Thousands of survivors across our area are already dead, and the real danger hasn't even landed yet, most of those deaths coming from infighting. If half of us are still standing after tomorrow, I'll call that a win. I tell them to clean it up and get ready to make those things pay in blood. Some people stare at the corpses with something like grief on their faces, so I take the moment to make it plain that the goblins caused this. Not me, and not Gok Kwangong, because I don't want any fool pinning it on us later. Gok Kwangong is a clever lackey. He picks up my thread almost before I finish, roaring that they'll pay in blood, kill every goblin, and build a base of their own, and it lands with the crowd. It means nothing to me, but for people the goblins enslaved it means everything, and now that there's a real chance many of them can't wait to tear the goblins apart. As natives here they understand the black fog in their bones, and they know that without a new base to shelter them, the day the black fog descends, they'll have nowhere left to run, because the black fog punishes every life the same. Revenge or survival, take your pick. The whole camp is boiling now, thick with murderous intent. Tonight is the only chance, I tell them, and today decides who lives and who dies. The ones willing to gamble their lives get picked out, and the rest I write off. After the pep talk, I go back to churning out Molotov cocktails, and the count has already blown past 5,000, so I just start producing hundreds of universal fuel barrels to hurl as projectiles too. Tonight, I want to put the entire goblin tribe to the torch. Night comes down and the dense forest goes quiet. The goblin tribe probes a few more times, but only scouting from a distance, bolting the moment anyone shows, some getting away clean while others are left behind in the dark. Once full night settles in, the goblins vanish entirely. I half expected them to go berserk after sundown, but the worker bee feed tells the real story. These goblins are afraid of the night. The walkie-talkie asks if everything's ready to move. The camp is already carved into squads, every hand gripping some kind of weapon, all of it aimed at killing goblins. Even the cattle and horses are lashed to big carts loaded with universal fuel barrels, waiting to charge once we reach the tribe. Some people don't dare join and get left behind, and no one spares them a thought, because except for the wounded, the rest are just cowards now, and it's already generous that nothing worse was done to them. There are no elderly and no children here. Anyone without value the goblins never bothered to feed. I give the word to move out, telling them to take the lead and then loose the fire oxen straight into the camp. I board the armored vehicle because this is a major battle, and the machine I've spent so long building is finally going to earn its keep. Woong Daegwang and the others are riding high with cars, guns, a mob of people, and a mountain of Molotovs behind them. The convoy peels out one column after another, with MU running the whole thing by radio across every position. I tell Sentry 1 to move out and to keep the worker bee reconnaissance running the entire way. The bee is already ranging ahead, the vehicle rolls under Sentry 1's control, and I sit inside with the AK-47 across my knees, watching the bees feed ready to step onto the field when it's needed. Especially when that Goblin King finally shows himself. Sentry 1 acknowledges and drives. The vehicle moves with real weight to it. 2 or 3 stories of armor rolling through the dark, and plenty of my people glance at it and find a few more points of nerve for the night ahead. The prior evacuation left some distance to cover, so it takes a while to reach the tribe's edge, but the cattle and horses are tireless, hauling loads of people without pausing, truly born to be beasts of burden. We aren't quiet, and a goblin scout catches sight of us and shrieks before we're close. That's fine. No tribe this size gets hit in silence, and I've always planned this as a frontal assault anyway. The scout's dying cry ripples through the tribe, and goblin patrols mobilize on all sides. Woong Daegwang's team doesn't care in the slightest. They just level their AK-47s and open up, and the scouts have no room to run even in the dark. The ones ducking behind trees chase down and shot. A few who spot us from far off manage to flee, though they won't have long to enjoy it. The lead team hurls Molotov cocktails the instant the tribe comes into view, tossing them from dozens of meters out, and the flames sweep across in a wall. It starts from one direction, then movement erupts on the left and the right too, gunfire and shattering firebombs lighting up the whole sky. The blaze drags goblins out of their mud huts and caves, and the moment they see the fire outside, instinct fills them with terror. Then a string of goblin shamans and large goblins push forward, and the panic dies down under them, more shamans arriving to take command. Finally, the Goblin King walks out of a wooden hut, with a scepter in his fist, golden-skinned, crowned, standing about 1.7 meters. He looks over the ocean of flame with a ferocious, furious face, red eyes cold with murder as they track toward the fire. He raps the scepter against the ground. An unseen wave rolls out, and the head of the scepter flares blue. In an instant, the terrified goblins find their spine. They snatch up weapons and actually march toward the flames, fearless in a way no goblin should be. The king isn't satisfied even with that. At his call, guards even stronger than the large goblins drag a war chariot up beside him, and when he mounts it and sweeps his arm, the entire tribe hears it and takes the order. Goblins are usually timid and easily routed, but under the king's bloodline suppression they have no choice but to obey. If the sovereign commands the subject to die, the subject dies. And even goblins ranked above the king can't resist his innate talent, because it's woven into the race itself. The king still carries himself like royalty, home ablaze and not the least bit rattled. In the short while he stands on that chariot, a huge force gathers around him, guards and shamans and mages and archers and goblins of every size. Over 500 of them. One word from him sends the whole mass surging toward the flames, the chariot rolling with them. By now my worker bees are already inside the tribe mapping goblin positions one cluster at a time, and I catch exactly this, the way they're bunching up together. They really are sitting ducks. It nearly pulls a laugh out of me, but I hold it in. I order Sentry 1 to send the worker bees into the attack and clear a path for the fire oxen. The bees that were only watching start to strafe, and basically one bee accounts for a large goblin or several small ones. Some get spotted first and torn down before they land a hit, especially by the shamans and archers who wield spells, whose eyes are frighteningly sharp. Once the word spreads that the bees are dangerous, the goblins hammer at them non-stop, which only shoves the horde deeper into chaos and hands Woon Daegwang his opening. The cattle and horses are frantic under the whips, and the flatbed carts behind them are burning hard now, making the animals wild with panic. Another lash sends my dozen-odd fire oxen thundering straight into the goblin camp, some plowing through huts, others bowling goblins over, and the universal fuel turns whatever they touch into a running torch. Between the Molotovs, the fuel barrels, and the charging fire oxen, the tribe collapses into bedlam, flames climbing to the sky. Lucky there's nothing else living nearby, or a blaze like this would draw a crowd. The slaves see hope in it and pour black iron crossbow bolts into the goblins. Most of them upgraded to those crossbows now, the rest still lobbing Molotovs, and the ones holding AK-47s have magazines to spare and rake the horde without pause. Goblins fight back and we take losses of our own, but theirs run far higher, and not by a small margin. MU's vehicle never stops moving, hurling firebombs, eventually plowing right into the tribe, targeting any goblin or hut in its path. Each vehicle carries 6-4 inside and 2 up top, 1 driving, 3 firing, 2 throwing, and the damage one of them does tearing through the tribe is genuinely staggering. MU steers clear of the dangerous goblins or simply runs, and anything that dares follow catches AK-47 fire for its trouble. That single vehicle puts on a show like 100 fighters, and it pulls the eyes of slave after slave. At first it's only destruction, but as the uproar grows, she throws caution aside entirely, her voice booming out over a loudspeaker again and again. She calls the enslaved her brothers, tells them she's come to save them, that if they kill the goblins this place becomes theirs, that they should pick up whatever's near and finish off the goblins around them. Humanity will prevail, she shouts, asking whether they mean to live standing up or kneel their whole lives away as slaves. She's a recent university graduate, still at the age where passion runs hot, and all the way here she's been swallowing her temper at the sight of so many people in chains. Now she just lets it out, half incitement and half raw frustration at their unwillingness to rise, and any goblin that strays near her eats AK-47 fire mid-sentence. Her voice reaches the slaves across this whole stretch, and some of them are so numb, chained up for who knows how long, that they only stare, suddenly unsure what kind of thing they even are. Are these people really here to save us, they wonder? Will humanity prevail? Are we human? Being a person feels like something from another life. No one has treated them as human in a very long time, worth less here than the livestock, less than the cattle and horses and the other races. Their own sense of themselves eroded into believing they were the lowest of things, that to live simply meant to be owned. Then MU's words land, and a few of them feel the faintest pulse of coming back to life. We are human, some of them start to say. The firelight throws itself across the faces of the enslaved, crawling out of the caves, and even from far off they feel the scorching heat, as if the long-lost sun itself were walking toward them. They aren't rats hiding in the dark anymore. After a short hesitation, a few haul themselves upright and scream to kill them all, arming themselves with whatever's at hand: stones, torn down beams, weapons wrenched from the goblins. The slave revolt throws the whole tribe deeper into ruin, since a full third of its population were slaves, kept down by weapons and starvation and a handful of traitors. Now that it's all chaos, no one cares who anyone is, and even the collaborators who used to lord over their own kind get hacked apart in the crush. There's slaughter everywhere, and it nearly drowns out the timid goblins themselves. Many goblins are already frayed, only turning berserk when the king or the shamans drive them, and with their companions dropping one after another and fire swallowing half the tribe, it's as if hell has closed in on every side and left them nowhere to run. Some bolt on their own wherever no high-ranking goblin is watching. Meanwhile, the Goblin King steers his troops toward my group, and along the way a few charging cattle and horses come at him, one aimed straight for the war chariot. That drives his fury to its peak. He lifts the scepter for a heartbeat, and a blue lance of light punches clean through the animals, flames swallowing them, and then blue lightning fans out from the scepter to strike down the surrounding cattle and horses, one after another. The whole thing takes seconds, and the chariot never even slows. The king's appearance lifts goblin morale, more guards pile into the fight, and slaves die in the space of a breath. Get caught and it's a dead end, and plenty are killed at range by shamans and archers, though some slaves who know they can't escape yank out Molotovs to drag goblins down with them, trading their lives for as many as they can take. The casualties are past counting, and it's brutal. If the worker bees weren't constantly picking off shamans, the king might already have led his horde out of the tribe to come at us directly, that lightning of his hammering the people around him, and stacking the dead ever higher. Woon Daegwang lobs Molotovs and fuel barrels from tens of meters out, but they can't do much, mostly shot down by the guards before they land, at best torching a bit more of the tribe's belongings. Is that the Goblin King? The question runs through the crowd as people pick out the Golden Goblin, hideous to human eyes yet unmistakably wrapped in a royal aura even other races can feel. For a moment it looks like the goblins are seizing the advantage, on the verge of grinding down everyone who charged in. That's my cue. I order the guard bees deployed and tell Sentry 1 to give them a shot. I've already reached the tribe's entrance, braced for this since the king first appeared. The only thing that nagged at me was that lightning, and whether the armored vehicle could take it, because electronics are exactly what a bolt like that loves to fry. But the layered armor holds up fine, and as long as the interior stays sealed off from the lightning, it won't be a real problem. At least that's what Sentry 1 tells me. Sentry 1 is blunt about it, and even though we're still hundreds of meters out, the massive cannon muzzle is already lined up. The cannon roars, and the noise makes the din of the night somehow louder still. Everyone can see the huge armored vehicle, 2 or 3 stories tall, opening up on the Goblin King's position round after round. The machine gun muzzles join in, and any goblin in sight gets mowed flat, the frail bodies behind a shaman's magic shield tearing apart after the shield eats only a few bullets. Fireballs and ice crystal arrows and every other kind of spell come flying at this enormous living target, but most are shot down by gun and cannon before they arrive, and the few that reach it leave nothing but scorch marks and frost on the outer armor. That outer layer is built to shrug off guns and cannons, and these Tier 1 and Tier 2 shamans can't even scratch through it, which only settles me deeper into my seat. I tell Sentry 1 to keep firing, and not give the king a chance to close the distance. The cannon reloads and fires and reloads again, hammering the king on his chariot, and when the shells come in, a protective shield flickers up over the chariot, shielding a swath of his people, though the goblins outside it get blown clean away. It doesn't kill the king, but it works, because it makes him too wary to press his attacks, and sends the goblins around him into a panic. Keep going, I tell it, don't stop. I have zero interest in getting anywhere near that lightning. If he's got a complaint, he can take it up with the cannon. Sentry 1 reloads and fires without pause, and I keep the vehicle rolling, edging in to clear out troublesome goblins wherever they cluster, while never lingering long enough to give anyone a weak spot to exploit. The cannon barrel tracking the king the whole way. By now it's plain his lightning can't reach several hundred meters, and my cannon has range measured in kilometers. The guard bees I sent out earlier start paying off too. There are only 100 of them, but with the hive's detection gear, they hunt down high-ranking goblins and self-destruct on target. Pure suicide drones with a high-speed sprint phase, cutting through the air like shells and detonating the instant they close in. One hit is usually enough to blow a Tier 2 goblin to pieces. A genuine silver tier device, living up to the name. Cannon, machine gun, guard bees, and the armored vehicle itself. I honestly suspect that with these few silver-level modifications riding a bronze-level chassis, I could sweep this entire tribe on my own. The cannon's roar swallows every magical sound, each shot shaking the ground and kicking up clouds of dust. The Goblin King seems to grasp that he can't hold out like this. His scepter erupts red, the nearby goblins hear it and let their violent aura loose in full, and his guards balloon in size, stats spiking until they look like little giants before they charge my vehicle. They don't come as one mass either, splitting up because they know staying bunched means getting wiped in a single stroke. The king doesn't hold his ground. After eating another shell, his chariot cracks, which only stokes his rage, and the shield around him is visibly thinner now, the kind of thing that would need real recovery time if it shattered. He gets the chariot moving again, lightning sheathing the whole vehicle and the king with it. Blue patterns crawling across his golden skin, his red eyes tinged with blue, and then the chariot lunges forward. Above us, the black smoke gives way to a fast-gathering storm cloud, and a light drizzle starts to fall. Too weak to kill the fire, but enough to wet the air, and inside that cloud lightning coils like a thunder dragon poised to strike. Cannon rounds keep going out, some connecting, some missing, the vehicle pulling back and firing the whole time. Is this his ultimate move? I watch it unfold from inside the vehicle with no intention of letting them get close. 2 machine guns dropping the surrounding goblins at range, but that blue lightning is faster than I am, so I glance at the ring on my hand and activate Shadow Veil. Source energy drains out of me in a steady bleed, at first only around me, and then, as another shell fires and the dust rolls, in the next instant the vehicle and I simply vanish from everyone's sight, as if we'd melted into the dark. It isn't just the vehicle. Nearby buildings and goblins wink out too the moment they cross into the field. The sight detonates the king's fury. He drives the chariot straight into the veil, scepter thrashing, blue lightning bursting out in a flash that nearly swallows the night, aimed to run me through. A heartbeat later on Shadow Veil and it might have landed. Instead, the king and his chariot barrel into the field's range and disappear right along with it. This is the first time I've run the ability at full power, and magic-type abilities really do hold their value, erupting with something technology can't touch at moments like this. As the caster, I feel everything inside the veil, but no one else is so lucky, because to them stepping in is pure blackness, a genuine shadow world. I can feel the king's rage as he charges in, and his perception is solid enough that clawing his way out would cost him real effort. And even if he managed it, that's exactly what I'd want, since leaving just means eating my long-range fire again. I keep spending source energy to widen the veil, 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, until countless goblins and people are folded into it. My face goes pale with the cost. If I hadn't broken through to the second tier, staging something this big would have been beyond me. There's a reason I'm pushing this hard. The king's earlier strike actually connected, stalling the vehicle for a moment, and even Sentry 1's screen went black before it snapped back, the lightning frying some solar panels and searing black streaks across the armor. A few more hits like that and I'd be in trouble. Now that he's inside my territory though, I move however I please, and his old trick of striking by my position is finished. I give the order to open up at full power and put the king down. I hold back a reserve of source energy and mental strength, and keep about 1 kilometer between us, the range where the cannon can fire at will, and stay inside the machine gun's effective reach. No obstacles in the way, hitting the king hard. On top of that, there are the guard bees, and though most already flew out, I kept 10 inside the vehicle for exactly this, waiting for the king to falter and his chariot shell to crack. The moment that becomes his death date, Sentry 1, recovered now, keeps the guns tracking and firing, and the distant king slides back into a losing position. He accelerates, but I can move too, and while my speed doesn't match his, it's not easy for him to open distance either, especially with the hits piling on and his senses half sealed. He can't hear, he can't see, and even for a third-tier transcendent that would be a fatal threat, let alone in the middle of a battle. He already regrets rushing into the Shadow Vale, but there's no regret medicine in this world. It's endlessly noisy in here, yet not even the goblins trapped alongside him can read his state. This silver-level item's power isn't a step below several of my vehicle devices, and even once I'm holding gold-level gear down the line, I don't see myself retiring it, at least not until I've learned Shadow Vale myself. The ability feels deeply compatible with my source energy, and maybe I could cultivate it on my own someday, and stop leaning on the item entirely. In the tug of war, I gradually learn the king's limits. My fire shatters his shell, the goblins who wandered into the Vale get cleared out, and just as I break him open and the machine gun punches through his body, the chariot beneath him erupts with brilliant blue light. Under his hateful glare, it explodes. He must feel like the most humiliated king ever to die, dragged into a place where he never once saw his enemy's face. Simply shot to death. He forced out nearly every trump card I had without ever knowing it, dying in blind indignation, and out of pure spite he refuses to leave anything behind for me, so he blows the chariot to swallow himself. It leaves me speechless, but all I can do is watch it consume him. He truly drove himself to the edge. There's a consolation prize though, one that has me practically drooling. Right where the king vanished, a brilliant material box glowing gold hangs in my perception. Better looking than any before it and a touch larger, and even a sliver of sense tells me it's a higher grade. It wasn't in vain, all that effort. I curl my lip, face pale and drained of mental and source energy, but genuinely thrilled, partly because the goal is done, the king dead, and the rest of the cleanup easy from here. The second piece of good news is naturally the box itself, because if a silver level box can boost me this much now, I can only imagine what a gold level 1 brings. The world outside knew nothing of the fight inside the Shadow Vale. Either way, once the king fell, everything out here flipped. The goblins seem to sense their king is gone and collapse into total disorder, cut down in droves by Woon Daegwang and his men. The guards who ran on the king's power buff revert to normal strength the instant he dies, and where they could once dodge bullets on their inflated stats, now they meet an unbroken storm of Molotovs and AK-47 fire. Maybe a high-attribute creature can slip a single rifle, but against the combined rate of fire of several rifles from every angle, even a peak tier 2 being can't dodge without some special skill. It's just like the Shadow Demon Wolf that only survived at range by leaning on its skills. These guys have gone soft, the men shout. The captain must have finished off that gold-skinned goblin, so hurry and don't let the rest escape. Woon Daegwang and the few others with walkie-talkies pass the word, each leading his men to run down the fleeing goblins, the AK-47 barrels spitting fire until they glow scorching hot. As the goblins scatter, the ground the Shadow Vale had swallowed returns to normal, and my armored vehicle surfaces again looking like a battle-damaged version of itself, mostly because the king's blue lightning charred a wide patch of the roof and killed some solar panels. I'll have to patch it or print new panel blueprints. No real hurdle since I'm sitting on a heap of spare blueprints. And with the generator room running, losing solar power just means burning a bit more fuel. Not a single goblin in this area is left breathing, though some humans caught in the crossfire pull through. I've already stuffed the gold material box into the vehicle. As for the king, that gold-skinned bastard self-destructed at the end and left his corpse scattered in fragments, his chariot and every piece of gear gone with him. I really did drive him to the wall. There are other spoils, at least, because the large goblins and shamans who entered with him still dropped bronze and even silver material boxes, and after scooping up a few silver ones, I don't let the loot dazzle me. The fight isn't over, the goblins are routing, and this is the perfect window to harvest. Material boxes don't even think about slipping away. The armored vehicle rampages through the tribe completely unopposed, machine guns hammering in bursts, and the cannon reaching out for anything at distance. My ultimate weapon finally bearing its full ferocity. It fills everyone else with envy, all of them itching to try the thing out. Neither goblin nor building can bar its path, and it crushes whatever it touches, this 100-ton king living squarely up to the name. The night is anything but peaceful, and the slaughter drags on and on. In the end, not a single goblin is left standing anywhere in sight, all of them reduced to scattered pieces. Some of the faster ones make it out of the tribe, and others duck into the caves, but that only buys them a little more time. The caves have other exits yet can't handle a mass escape, and the slow ones still get cleared out by the red-eyed slaves. The tribe's own slaves in particular number quite a lot, and at least 2,000 of them survive, though slaves of other races aren't so fortunate, wiped out under a kind of racial discrimination. Sitting inside the vehicle, I've already told Woon Daewang, Gok Guanggang, and the others to gather and calm these people. Watching the flames climb and the crowd drift into a lost, aimless mood, I'm already turning over my next move, because the fight went smoothly, but what comes after is the real test. And mishandled, it tips right back into chaos. The losses in this battle were heavy too. The men I brought cut by nearly half, and it's the slaves who took the worst of the dead and wounded. Glancing at the display packed with life sign readings, Sentry 1 puts the count near 3,000. And that's after so many slaves already died, or the number might have topped 4,000. The Fire Seed. I asked Sentry 1 if it can locate the Fire Seed, because with the battle only just ended I almost forgot it. This is the single most important thing here, something I can't let the goblins destroy or anyone else make trouble over, or this tribe won't even come together. Sentry 1 doesn't recognize the term and suggests I check the Goblin King's residence, marking the spot on the display, since as an artificial intelligence its knowledge is limited to this vehicle. Let's head over then. I don't dawdle, setting the vehicle rolling, and the sudden movement draws a few looks, but I say nothing and no one dares act rashly, not after they've all seen what this vehicle can do. In the heart of the tribe stands a 2-story wooden house, crude but plainly the best structure here, the same place the king first walked out of. Since it hasn't collapsed, I let out a small breath of relief as I climbed down, because during our rampage plenty of houses got flattened, and if anything had happened to the Fire Seed that would have been a disaster. AK-47 in hand, I move on the house, worker bees having already slipped inside and found no danger. The interior holds a simple bed ringed by metal utensils, plus decorations of beast heads and bones. Most likely the king's collection, and none of it interests me. On the second floor my gaze locks straight onto a stone altar in the center, carved into some beast's head with its lower body crouched and claws bared, wickedly intimidating, and inside that gaping maw a dark green light flickers. My eyes light up, because I'm all but certain this is what I came for, and sure enough, as I approach, the details reach me. It's a genuine gold-grade item, the very foundation a person needs to establish themselves in this world. The dark green flame lays itself out for me. It calls itself the Green Forest Fire Seed. Gold level, a fire seed able to repel the black fog, more potent when kept inside a forest, powerful enough to guard an entire woodland, and holding it might mean never fearing the black fog again. It can split off subfires, and those subfires can briefly scatter the black fog, the current count reading 5 of 10. The information settles it. This is exactly my target. The flame carries no heat, yet it radiates a strange energy I can only feel clearly now that I hold source energy, and it seems to be drinking in the energy around it, growing by the moment. Subfires then. Reading it through, it clicks into place. The Fire Seed is meant to stay at the base as a shield, while the subfires go out with anyone who has to travel beyond the protection circle, and the goblins ranging far from the tribe must all have carried them, which is why the count isn't full. Does this whole forest count as the goblin tribe's turf, I wonder for a moment, then decide I don't care. They're aliens themselves and they enslaved this many people, so whose land it was doesn't matter. Just send the lot of them to their deaths. How do I split a subfire? I reach out to the Fire Seed, and the thing isn't so cruel as to make me guess, because the moment I touch it, a prompt arrives. Splitting a subfire needs a bronze level or higher item as a carrier. Bronze level holding a subfire for 24 hours, with a low chance of damage. Silver level holding it for 32 hours, with a very low chance. No difficulty, no binding, and for me right now that's good news. Though it's bad news too, because it means anyone could pry this thing loose at any time. Need equipment as a carrier then. I run through my gear and finally land on the Shadow Veil ring, silver level and nearly impossible to damage. But I think better of it, because even at a 1% risk I won't gamble. If it really broke and the storage space or the Shadow Veil ability went with it, even without losing the whole ring, I'd want to lock myself away. I meant to test the subfire's range, but I hold off, planning to test it after dawn and then leave straight away with the subfire in hand. That way, once the protection buff fades by noon tomorrow, the subfire still guards them through the night. After that it comes down to luck, to whenever I can crack open another Fire Seed. I slaughtered a whole tribe and still only have the 1 gold level material box, and gold isn't like bronze or silver, unlikely to fall into my hands so easily again, so luck decides the rest. With the Fire Seed confirmed, I can finally arrange the plans I've been sitting on. These slaves can count on a place to live, since I have no intention of carrying the Fire Seed off. No more than I intend to carry the people off. I did toy with leaving a survivor behind so I could trade for a subfire later, but I dropped it. If there's no turning back, it's anyone's guess whether the survivor would still listen once I'm gone, and forcing someone to volunteer to stay is more trouble than it's worth. Walking out of the room, I've already made up my mind to take a portion of the elite contributors with me. At the very least, the slaves who followed us to storm this place, the few dozen who are left, aren't bad, and hauling them all along is a bit of a hassle but not impossible. My own vehicle is already enormous, and expanding it is a pain that would only cut into its defense, but the other vehicles can be stretched a little. Nothing too high, just enough to give people a seat and somewhere to rest. Squeeze in a bit and they'll manage. With the plan set, I get Mu, Woon Daegwang, and the others on the line. Material boxes. So many material boxes. Mu says the instant she sees me, adding that she's been keeping an eye on everyone, and no one has secretly cracked a box. It comes off a little like she's jockeying for favor, and it isn't hard to see why. There's already the matter of Woon Daegwang, and now Go Kwanggang playing the sycophant, and her sense of threat keeps sharpening, terrified that someone with abilities like hers might turn up later and leave her nothing to prove. Good, thank you for the hard work, I tell her, and I can't help clicking my tongue at the haul. Over 1,000 material boxes, and that's without raising the entire tribe, most of them rock or black iron, but more than 100 bronze in there and a dozen or so silver besides. It's enough to make my head spin, enough that I start thinking about handing the boxes out as rewards. As the team's dictator, it wouldn't matter if I kept every last one, but I've taken these people in, so I owe them something, and I can't hoard all the gains, especially when I'm not exactly hurting for supplies now. It's only right, Mu says, standing off to the side beaming like a blossom. And the smile only widens at what comes next. You two, brother and sister, take 2 bronze level boxes and 20 black iron level 1s, I tell her. And for the people who followed you, 5 black iron level each. Her role in this fight was no small thing, both commanding and charging in herself, real merit. And while her brother Imwoo did less, I couldn't be bothered to split hairs, so I rewarded them together, with even the useful ones on her vehicle getting a share. Captain, really, thank you, she says, caught off guard, because she'd assumed it would go like before. Waiting for me to open every box first and then dole things out, and having them handed over directly delights her. This haul, everyone has a share, I tell her with a flat face, testing how she'll handle the benefits. She looks a touch embarrassed, but she's been dying to open boxes for ages, so she calls her foolish brother over, and the two of them quickly pick out 22 boxes, hungry for something good. She leaves the others' shares untouched, meaning to summon those people herself to collect and to thank me. Woon Daegwang, you all have a share too. I go on. 3 bronze level and 20 black iron level for the 3 of you. And if you can't open the boxes, find someone to help or come to me. Anything inside you don't need you can trade, it's your private property. And the people who moved with you get 5 black iron level each. I hadn't forgotten Woon Daegwang, and while it's a shade less than Mu's group, it lands in the same range, with the other vehicles set for about 8 black iron each. Thank you, Captain, he says, just as pleasantly surprised, not having expected a cut at all, since they aren't survivors and are plainly curious what these boxes will spit out. Besides handing out the boxes, I remind them, I mentioned before that I plan to pull some people into our convoy. For now, that's Go Kwanggang and his group, plus this batch that charged the tribe with us. So if you think it fits, choose your own people. I give them the heads up early, and anyone left over can follow Ga Kwanggang if they want. My own vehicle will take on some people later too, otherwise all that space would just go to waste.